Is already champing at the bit to get going.
Hello, Dave.
Hello, Dave. Hello, everyone.
Hello, the world.
Not just Dave. Dave's first off the mark on YouTube with a good evening. He's got a wee whiskey emoji there, so I'm assuming there's a dram in the glass, Dave. Be great to know what that is. Yeah. Guys, welcome along to another Blether with on a Thursday night. What better way to spend a Thursday night than listening to us ramble on with the great and the good of the whiskey industry over a dram. Kat, what's in your glass? You were teasing you got a sample that you've been dying to get a hold of or get stuck in.
Well, it is the Ardent American Paul Lenoir, which I got to try at the Whisky Festival in Aberdeen. And then and then Alex from Woodrow let me have her sample when she came into Glengarry the other day. We were trading samples. So I've just been holding on to it, waiting to have it. So that's what I love it so much.
I'm privileged to be in your company when you crack open that and try that while I'm 30 miles away and unable to join you.
It's a very small sample as well, so it probably wouldn't go around people. I mean, it'd be a shame to split that between two people, so it's probably for the best. I just keep it myself.
Dave's crack open the Glenmorangie 15-year-old. I'm going to delve back a couple of years to a wee tomatin that I found in my cabinet. This is the rum cask, 10-year-old tomatin rum cask, which came out 2019, I want to say. Maybe 20. But whatever. I actually picked this one up about a year after it was launched at, what do you call that place? House of Brewer. It's got the wee whiskey shop there. That's where I picked up that on holiday. So it would have been 2020. But it's an absolute cracker. It's a great alternative to the Balvenie rum cask as well, which is kind of the rum cask that everyone knows. And at last, I've got about a dram and a half left of it now. So
why is rum gone?
Sorry?
Jack Sparrow. Why is the rum gone?
Where's the rum gone? Yeah. Good evening, Rick, from San Francisco.
Good morning, Rick.
To you. Good morning, Rick. Maria, hello. Maria's books finally arrived. She was on our Whisky Academy, and I sent her 2 books of Dave Stick's independent book about, I don't know, a year ago maybe, and they finally arrived in Spain this week. So glad that she's got that now. And David Muir is on. Carper Piper, he is on. I wonder if his bath's run already, and he is soaking in there. Mind the head getting out, Dave, because I know you gave yourself a bit of a bash the other day. Be gentle. Right, guys, we're going to bring on our guest. We have Ross Barr, who is not the creator of the Bevvy app. That was my mistake. But he is very much involved in the Bevvy app. And Whisky Geek, you've done a bit of work with Diageo, you've done all sorts. So welcome along, Ross. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Not at all. Do you want to let everyone know what your role is within the Bevvy app?
So first and foremost, I love these kind of things, just talking to whisky enthusiasts about good drams and sharing our experiences. I'm very, very lucky. Joining you from a flat here in Edinburgh, but I've worked in whisky since I was 18. I've done a plethora of different things. Started at the whisky shop, was at the Balmoral Hotel as their whisky ambassador, and got to travel Scotland and travel the world and try some really cool drams through that. And then was in Kinchy Distillery during the pandemic as well. Was very fortunate that I got the opportunity to learn and experience something new in a period where the rest of the world had stopped. I've recently started with the Bevvy app, kind of the ultimate whisky companion app. If you're a whisky collector, if you're new to whisky, it's very educational. You can scan your bottles, you can load your collections. It's a really exciting time. It's something quite different for whisky. Trying to get away from those, you have to sit in a corner of an old bar and drink your whisky and eat and all the rest of it, and trying to modernise whisky. I'm joining them as their whisky specialist, and we're about to do Edinburgh Whisky Festival next month at Murrayfield. which we're really, really excited to talk about.
Cool.
We've sponsored the event.
Wow.
So we've got over 50 exhibitors, some of the biggest distilleries and companies in the world, and but lots of independents. Some, a whiskey. It's actually a whiskey festival that not all stands drink whiskey. A lot of the stands are people just having a conversation or whiskey podcasts. It's very forward thinking, really, really exciting. So I'm delighted to join you today. I'm going to pour myself a dram. I met Kat at the Glengarry distillery, so I'm going to crack the seal
There we go.
of my Glengarry 17.
Cheers to that.
Third chapter,
Belted.
and I've really tasted that and see what I think. I've got quite a selection of drams. We've been out for dinner, my fiance and I, so quite a collection of drams to get through tonight during our conversation. But that way, I think, seems appropriate.
And because when I met you at Glengarry, you were still with the Balmoral. So was that what you did with your role? You kind of visited distilleries with a view for stock bar, or?
Yeah, so Whisky Ambassador at the Balmoral Hotel, we had a bar called Scotch, so 7 tables and 400 single malt whiskies. It's quite an intimate space. It certainly was the least, I would say I'm probably the worst bartender you'd meet. It was the least bartender style job. It's kind of private whiskey tastings and meeting clientele. Obviously, in Scotland's #1 hotel, you're meeting people from all over the world who are coming to experience Scotland in its most immersive and authentic way. And so we were there, we were kilted up, we were given fantastic private tastings with some of the best liquids that Scotland's produced. It was a fantastic job. I worked there before the pandemic when I was 19. And then left through the pandemic and then came back, and it was an amazing place to work and learn, and we had different partnerships with different distilleries and the opportunity to learn that the whiskey industry is actually tiny. Everybody's friends with everybody wants to inform everybody. There was no kind of competition. It was a really, really friendly and fun place to start learning about whiskey. I'll never ever be a whiskey expert, but even just working from 18 to 24 in whiskey. It's been an amazing opportunity, and that gave me an amazing platform. So yeah, it was really, really fun. So I visited a few distilleries through that, and now with the Bevvy app again, being able to visit different places, meet different people. For example, we've sponsored Hibs Football Club in Edinburgh for 2 years. I'm not a Hibs fan. I'm from Ayrshire, but we've sponsored Hibs for 2 years. And so that's a fantastic partnership for us to be able to meet our whiskey connections, take them to Easter Road for a wee day out, and be a wee more collaborative.
Need a whiskey after that. So.
Well, perhaps. I mean, I'm a Kilmarnock. To be honest with you, Mike, I don't know what it's like in the Northeast, but I'm a Kilmarnock fan, which is pretty dreadful. So support, so having to watch Hibs every other week is actually okay.
Yeah.
You
just got. It was Hearts that knocked you out of the cup, wasn't it? Last minute.
Mike, we were really getting on.
Yeah.
It was. But what can you do?
I was going to say it was Hibs, but Hibs played last night.
Yeah.
Sorry. We very rarely we do have a really good talk. Sorry, Kat.
I'm going to stay quiet for this whole chat. And let's move on to the Rugby World Cup. I'm clueless.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have it's almost written in the rules that we don't discuss football, politics or religion. So that's all football we will. It was topical because you sponsored a football team we can bring up.
I've just sponsored them, which means that we meet up with our friends in whiskey and we say, what do we think? Well, not that bothered, but how's your whiskey going and all the rest of it,
Yeah. Awesome. Before we move on, we're going to have to mention, Rick has brought up that you have some great moulding in your Edinburgh flat.
I'm very lucky. So I live in Newtown, modern part of the city, and my apartment was built in 1881, and so it's ridiculous. It's the reason you fall in love with a city like this, especially being from Ayrshire, living in Edinburgh now, and I've been there for 5 years. We're so spoiled, absolutely spoiled. My fiance is from North America. She's from Michigan in the States, and so it's like going to Rome. Every street corner's a museum here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite.
It looks quite tall. A high roof as well, is it?
It's John. Yeah, I appreciate the compliment. Unfortunately, the room's very yellow, which is something that pre-existed me. But that just goes to show how much I love whiskey.
You're just in a little golden amber hue.
You do have like
That's not
quite
the
a
room.
saintly glow around you. It's quite biblical.
Yeah, I know. The light's right behind my head, so that's
You got a little angelic presence there.
this is it.
Good
Got
stuff.
to be memorable.
What's in your glass just now? What are you tried?
So I've just poured myself this Glengarry.
Oh,
17
yes.
which I think Kat could probably tell us more about, to be honest. But I remember trying it at the distillery and being really impressed.
It's always a good seller for us.
Yeah.
Mike liked that one too. It's a sweet one.
Yeah.
Nice and sweet.
50.8%. Really interesting. I want to say that the tour at Glengarry was fantastic. Having visited a lot of different distilleries, it was an ex-police officer, as a woman.
Julie.
And so we had quite a busy tour,
her.
and she just had such an enthusiasm, not only for the distillery but for the area. She'd obviously been there for quite a while, and so that's something that you'll both know as well as me. When you visit a distillery, the tour guide you get can make all the difference. And so me and my father, we go once a year and we do a kind of trip. So this year we've done a few distilleries, and Glengarry was number 2 on the list, and it was a brilliant tour. We had a really good time.
I'll pass it on to her. She's just a character.
I need to ask, what was number 1?
Well, so number two, as in it was number 2 on the itinerary. I could never be so I'm not that brave. I don't look at that well. So we drove all the way up and we done Glendronach, but I'd done Glendronach before. My father hadn't. So we done Glendronach, and then we done Glengarry, and then we came down and we done Fettercairn. We had a great tour at Fettercairn. White Mackay. I worked with a lot of people from White Mackay previously, so they took really good care of us. And then we had lunch at Glenturret at the new Lalique restaurant on the way back down to Edinburgh, which was quite nice. Whereas the year before, we'd done the Northern Highlands, we'd done Balblair, Tomatin, Glenmorangie, Dornoch. Dornoch was quite special. So,
cool.
But it's all good, isn't it? I mean, it's the hardest part of our jobs, visiting these distilleries, you know?
I'd love to see Fettercairn. They got like a really cool tasting room now, don't they? Like a bar kind of area.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. I think the still room's something that I remember I spoke to hundreds and hundreds of people and spoke about these stills with the reflux because of the water that goes down the stills, and I'd never actually seen it. And so they were just coming out their quiet season, and I came in, and it was quite funny. It was the first time I'd been at a still house. It was just me, and it was a private tour. I just came in, and there was problems in the still house. I'd never been in a distillery where there's engineers running around like mad and trying to fix it. It was just a great time. They put the water feature on almost to humour me because they weren't in production. But it was still amazing to see it, and I really, really liked the liquid. It was one of those tours where you're in a warehouse, you get asked to put your phone away, and they shut the door behind you and you say, let's try this and try this and try this. And you know, the warehouse been there. I wish I could remember his first name. We've been there for years and years and years, and he was quite unapologetic. And in fact, he said, "Well, this is Fettercairn. We're good in bourbon casks. I only like Fettercairn and bourbon casks." And I said, "Well, I appreciate your honesty, but we tried like old cognac casks, and I had a really good time there." But obviously, Cat's hospitality at Glengarry was second to none. Second to none.
There we go. That's the best way to finish that.
Rick agrees. Rick says Glengarry tour guides are the best.
Oh, thank you, Rick. Yes, we are. We are
He's hunting in for something in the next academy.
Do you know, the thing though, it's the enthusiasm. I think you have to, you kind of, if you don't fall in love with the distillery that you work for, sometimes it just becomes a little bit, you're saying the same thing all the time. So like, you want to love the place that you work for, because otherwise it could get a bit repetitive, couldn't it, that job? So.
For sure. I think when I was at Glenkinchie, it was such a strange period of time because I was there for a year and a half, and the first year of that, it was closed to the public. And I wouldn't say that I had a great affiliation for the liquid produced at Glengarry. Before that, I was 21 years old and thinking, Glenkinchie. I'm thinking Glenkinchie, you see it in Edinburgh and the Lothians, you don't really see it much else. They only really do a 12 in a Distillers edition. But I remember, I think it was the second week, going in and speaking to one of the stillmen and walking around a warehouse and drinking from the cask and going, this is way more than what's presented to the public. You know, there's way more going on, and the history, you can't help but romanticize it when you work at a distillery like that. And Glengarry's one of the oldest, right? Like 1797 or something like that.
That's the official date, but been there since the 1780s. But yeah,
it's unbelievable, you know.
What's mad, isn't it? Walking around these buildings like that, people have been on go for over 220 years. Absolutely mental.
It's a privilege for anyone working in a distillery that's been around for that long, just to know, you know, they're walking in the footsteps of these guys who didn't run it as a tourist industry. It was run for a business first and foremost, isn't it? And it's quite interesting. You speak to probably the guy who worked at your Fitter Care warehouse was one of them. You work and speak to the guys who are on the tools, hands on. To them, it's a day job. To them, they don't really get. We were in our Highland Academy. We went to Knockdhu, and the guy who took us round was one of the stillmen. He was like, "I don't really like whiskey. I don't drink. It's just a job." Okay? And it's like they don't understand how we get really geeky about it. And they're like, it's just a bit of engineering, really. You know, this pipe puts that in there, and then that cools that down and heats that up, and we put it in a barrel, and off it goes. And it's just it's incredible.
Mate, you're spot on. I'm in the still house at Glengarry, and I'd never seen such a dramatic line arm, for example. And I'm looking around the room. I'm looking around the room like, do you see this? Do you see this? And nobody gives a hoot. Do you know what? I said to my dad, and my dad's very shiny, spirit safe or whatever. And my dad's into whiskey as well, but I'm like, do you see that lineup? Do you see that lineup? Nobody's bothered. There's 12 folk in the tour, and it's as if I'm a kid that got the candy just because of my excitement and because I hadn't expected it. You know, as bizarre as that is.
It's a fairly dramatic slope, though, isn't it?
I've never. Quite incredibly long.
Yeah. Is it the highest angle?
I don't think we've had it like verified, but I haven't seen a slopier line arm before.
It's a very long line arm. Yeah.
I think
we used to have one of the longest, and then Arden Hole opened their distillery, and they've got like a massively long line arm. And then when we had the refurb, the length was just more angled instead. So you'll remember it, Mike, from when it was like much longer and went down when the Spirit Safe was at the stairs.
Yeah, because it went behind the Spirit Safe, wasn't it? Yeah,
everything was like other way around in there, and then the refurb, they just had to change things, so they just kind of generated the same effect, but by giving it more of an angle. But it's quite a pitch on it. I still get excited every time I go into the malt barns and see malt on the floor, and I literally work there 6 days a week, so it should never be a surprise. I'm like, yes, look at my let's get in, let's touch it.
It is amazing that you've got such a historic distillery owned by a relatively big company that is increasing authenticity and taking you back in time. I mean, it's something that I speak to Martin McVardson from Highland Park. He exudes pride whenever he talks about his brand, because everybody knows Highland Park, but not everybody knows actually how old school, how authentic, how legitimate Highland Park is as a distillery. To put those floor maltings aside, in the same way what you do at Glengarry, it's exciting to see what that product will be like in 15, 20 years' time.
Well, the new make spirit is something exciting anyway. Mike's done with the Academy, done like a new make session to see how it's involved. So to see what we're getting now, it's an exciting thing.
Yeah.
For everybody that's playing the Glengarry drinking game, I hope you're all sitting down.
Everyone is on the floor.
Oh, is this something? That's my bad.
It came about accidentally because Glengarry's mentioned often, and I maintain it's not me that's mentioning it. I'm pretty sure it's our guest.
I mean, to be fair, that was absolutely me that time. I'm moving on from my Glengarry. I'm going to pour a second dram because I only poured a wee bit. I'm going to move on to a grain whiskey. I'm so big on grain whiskey just now. This was a gift I was given, so I've got a Cambus, a 32-year-old Cambus. But grain whiskey in general, from hedonism to some of the older stuff you get now, I think it's just fantastic, and I didn't know anything about it previously.
Is that something you would find on the... Oh, sorry, Mike. I was going to say, is that something you would find on the app, like Grain Whiskey too? Like
Well,
if you scan the bottle.
the thing about Bevvy is you can scan any bottle. If you scan this Glengarry, the brilliant thing about it, whether you're new to the app or not, or whether you're new to whiskey or not, the beauty of it is you scan this bottle, it'll come up with the bottle, it'll come up with an estimated value, it'll come up with the ratings that other users have given, but it'll also, you scroll down, it'll come up with a distillery profile for Glengarry.
Yeah.
It'll tell you about the history, it'll tell you about the intimate styles of which they're making their whiskey and all the rest of it. So it's very educational as much as it is a massive database. We've got over 100,000 whiskey bottles scanned. So we've got people that, for example, have got a collection of 3,000 whiskies and they've scanned their 3,000 bottles in their house. And then they can have a value of their collection and they can watch the value of their collection, but also they can maintain what they've got, they can add to their portfolio. It's a great database to have that. The future of Bevvy and what can happen is going to be really interesting. We can go a lot of different ways. But for example, with this Edinburgh Whisky Festival next month, every stall or every company that's there, so an independent bottler like Fragrant Drops, brilliant bottler based in Edinburgh, or a big company like Jameson's, if you really like their whiskey at that event, you can buy it via the app during the festival. So that's something that we're working on as well. So not only can you scan your bottle, you can scan this Glengarry 17 and you scroll down and maybe in the future it'll have the Founder's Reserve or it'll have whatever and you can add that to your basket and it'll work hopefully in almost a transparent intermediate space where, okay, the whiskey might come from Inverary Whisky Shop, it might come from Raw Mill Whiskies, it might come from the Whisky Exchange, but you can buy it via the app and that's something that we're looking into in the future. We're no rush because we've got a lot of parties interested, of course, but it's a massive database and a massive fact file of whiskey. So grain whiskies, definitely, independent bottling's definitely. But you get something really obscure in your collection, so I'm sure you'll both have something really obscure. If you scan something tonight and it doesn't identify your bottle, one of our team in the next 24 to 48 hours, you'll get a notification, they'll add your bottle to the database. So whenever you scan something and it doesn't work, that's brilliant for us. We've got something about a 96, 98% success rate. If you scan the bottle, if you scan your Lagavulin 16, the technology will identify it and tell you about it. But you've got independent bottlings, you've got hand fills, you've got cask samplings, all these different things. You're the first person to scan it. That's a brilliant problem for us because the app might not seem like it's working initially, but behind the scenes, one of our team will be able to add that. So it's quite exciting. It's a very forward thinking whiskey companion. It's the ultimate whiskey companion, is the way that I describe it. Obviously, I'm slightly biased having now just something, but there's never been anything like it before for whiskey.
I love so I just scanned this Glenallachie 12-year-old, and also Glenallachie, I've had a few 12-year-olds, so it kind of picks up that, and it gives me a couple of options. Like, we're not sure, but here's kind of 3 or 4 options that it could be, and you select it, so it recognises it, saves it, like that. And then you go into it, and you've got average value. Does the average value? How do you pick that up? Do you use
that'll come from
auction or is it retail?
Yeah, both.
Both.
The answer is both. So it'll take an average, particularly if you, I'm sure you both have a good collection of whiskey. If you scan a bottle you bought 10 years ago, that average value will come from maybe the last auction that it was put up with an average retail value that's put up. So it does change every month or so as well. So so it'll be interesting. You scan a few bottles, you can add them to one of your lists, your favourites, your watch lists, or whatever you want to do. And you'll be able to see how the value changes for that as well. The estimate, it is an estimate at the end of the day. It's one of those things that all the brands are happy for us to represent and educate people, essentially for free advertisement. For a modern whiskey app, but they will get a little upset about their estimates. But their estimates are literally taken from where they're sold, so it's one of those things. And that's something in the app that can always be improved.
Will the app scan labels of bottles that were found 190 years ago in an old Blair Castle?
So we're quite lucky. I mean, we've got that's a good question because obviously it's very on topic and very on point coming up. So the tech works in a way that, without giving too much away, for example, every bottle of Macallan has the year 1824 on it. So you need to train the tech to ignore 1824, because the likelihood of it being distilled in 1824 is very little. So you kind of have to train the technology to say, okay, anything before the year 1900, let's ignore that number. Let's look for the most recent vintage, prioritizing it. It's an incredible piece of tech to prioritize this saying 32-year-old, but also says 1998, also says 2021. So the app will see all three of those numbers and then have to work out what are we prioritizing there. The vintage, the age statement, it works a lot on the ABBs.
Yeah.
So particularly when you've got stuff like this Glengarry, it'll pick up keywords like Renaissance. Great, Glengarry Renaissance. But we know there's a few of them. So then it'll look at the ABV, what makes it different. And that's another way that it can identify. So the worst thing people can do is scan the back of bottles or scan bottles covering the ABV. But it's one of those things that our team will deal with that anyway.
Yeah.
But basically, if it's got the age statement, it's got the name, it's got the ABV, the tech is so efficient now that it should be able to work through what's there. It's so impressive as somebody that's new to the company. And the problems you get with it are always great problems. This, Daft Mill, I've got a Daft bottle of Daft Mill next to me. How many Daft Mill 2010s have there been? The answer is too many.
Yeah.
But it's great whiskey, but the Daft Mill 2010's 46%. There's a lot of them. So then you've got to manually do that and get back to the users. And
So will it pick up words then? Not going to summer, winter?
It will pick. So yeah. So we'll add keywords. So it'll identify Daft Mill winter batch 46% in the year, and that's where you get your suggestions of your. It's really, really integrate. It's really integrated with how specific it can be, as long as it's a good clear scan. It's as you can imagine, it's not uncommon for people to scan the photo of their hands or scan, for example, a problem that can happen. It's very easy to happen is you scan this bottle, but there's 3 bottles in the background, and so the technology will also scan the names of the bottles in the background, so on and so forth. So it's an amazing piece of tech with a very, very high ceiling, and we're getting more and more users. And the best thing about it is the more problems we identify, the better the app will become.
Yeah. It's such a great idea. Like, everybody comes into the shop, they've got a collection, and they're going through their photos, because like they've got like a photo record of all their bottles, and like, I'm sure it's in here somewhere. I think I've got that one, but like to have that in one place, like a list with like
I think
value.
The list is only that's a small part of the app. But if you can decompare, you could put your Speyside whiskies in one list and all the rest, and make it much easier for yourself as well.
I love lists. I mean, this is like, I love it.
So you can actually upload from your photo collection as well. You don't actually have to physically be there.
Exactly. So
you can then go.
I'm sure when I'm out in Edinburgh, I'm drinking drams. I'm taking photos of the bottles that I take. It's not great with live photos. You take live photos, it's not brilliant. But if you take screenshots of those live photos and such, it'll work really well. And again, if your suggested bottle doesn't come up with your Glenallachie 12, you can then go to the right. You can put search and then search and see if it's been scanned before. If nothing comes up, you report a missing bottle, and then one of our team, Monday to Friday, will get back to you, normally within 24 hours, and you'll get that notification, that push notification saying, we found your bottle. It's secretly saying, thank you very much for adding to the database.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean,
you've even got the year on there. Look at that.
Yeah, so we also so we'll have people, for example, whenever it's one of those things that the app is relatively new, that the team have been going for about 2 years before I've joined them, and so now we have people that will add all the new bottles released every single day. Oh, good.
Yeah.
So now we'll have people adding the new whiskey retail bottles every single day. However, we started 2 years ago. It's 2021. There's been a lot of whiskey produced since then, so that all the new bottles shouldn't be a problem. We should be pretty on top of that. But old bottles is where you're finding that you're being that unique scan. You're the first person to scan it. If you're saying it looks like the app doesn't work, the chances are you're the first person to scan it. So report that missing bottle, and then we'll add it to the database.
And this is all free for people.
All totally free. you know, as I say, we're very lucky. We've got a very forward-thinking owner, who's worked in tech before, and we've got a really the Whisky team that I'm a part of work under a guy called Laurie Black. Laurie's spent a lot of time in whisky auctions and whisky retail, and so we've got an amazingly talented team. The technology does most of the work for us, but it's free. You can do whatever you want with it, and this is only the start of the app. You know, my hope is that we're going to be able to do our own products in the future. Not giving too much away. I mean, the sky's the limit. You know, we've done ballots via the app before for Wireworks English Distillery, for example. So we've done Wireworks, a ballot of a cask of Wireworks that there was far too many ballot entries and can sell in minutes, and as well as doing potentially single casks with big brands like, well, you know, you can imagine, you know, you can get private cash, you can get independent bottlings. It's a fantastic site for people to learn about whiskey, but also store their whiskey collections, and soon, hopefully, to be able to purchase their whiskey as well.
They have like active, up-to-date like news as well, like industry-related news. So it's like even sort of things you could just sit and fiddle with, you know, like
We're very lucky again with the talent we have on the whiskey team. This guy Lewis again with a background of up at Swee, in Edinburgh, the Scotch Whisky Experience, and a wee bit of auction background and purchasing background. It's just a team of whiskey nerds. So when something new happens, like you suggested with all these bottles found in Blair Castle, we love to write about these kind of things. So it's one of those things that you can also keep up to date in whiskey things. And how often are you sitting on a bus or sitting on a train and you get a notification that's actually interesting? Well, for me, very little. But if I get something that I've not heard of, a bit of Glen Grant, one of one auction that I've not seen, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to read it, and it's interesting. And it comes from an independent whiskey enthusiast. It's not from a big market company. These are written by the whiskey team that are also identifying your bottles.
That's pretty cool. So, I mean, I can just imagine you guys. You know, I assume you have an office where you all kind of meet up and kind of play about and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When a whiskey comes in, you don't know it hasn't been scanned. Everyone just gets a little like, oh wow, look at this!
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I've had it already in the last 2 weeks, and as I say, I'll never ever be a whiskey expert, but I've certainly been spoiled in my experience. So to see a bottle that I'm like, what on earth is that? It's such a great problem. I've seen stuff like, oh, my fiance hates it. I've got all these whiskies that I need to buy now that I've never seen before. I recently, somebody scanned, it was a Bunnahabhain 21 double Portwood, and it must be from years ago. And I'm saying, I don't really care what it goes for on auction. As soon as it becomes available, I'll be looking for that because I've never seen it before. I like the sound of all of it. So that's been the only problem that's come with the new job, that you see all these really interesting bottles that people are scanning and you go, how have I never seen that before?
Yeah.
You know, we need to get Callum. If we had Callum, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Diak from Diak.
Yeah. It's a Wake Bar in Craigellachie.
So he was on last week. We need to get him just going through the bar, just scanning stuff and just overload you guys. Just like, who is this person?
Callum's brilliant. And we get a lot of that. We'll get, you know, you'll turn your laptop on a Monday and there'll be somebody who's scanned their 800 bottle collection.
Wow.
And so some of them may have worked. You know, the most popular scanned whiskies are Ardbeg 10 and Lagavulin 16. Which goes to show that we also have that active. I thought that was so surprising to me, you know, that we've got that active new whiskey drinker, or maybe, you know, classic. They drink the same thing, and then you get these people who have got every Connoisseur's Choice released in the last 10 years, and they've decided to scan every single bottle of it, and so that's 40 Craigellachie's from 1996, and identifying every individual bottle is incredibly hard, but it's a great problem for us to have.
Do you not think it could become like the TikTok for whiskey geeks, where we're going to toilet for 10 minutes and 3 hours later you're coming out?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of whiskey content, and this is something that I've been brought in to do, and I think it's really quite exciting. Our YouTube channel's been fantastic. It was not something we ever used before, but we went from nothing to 30,000 subscribers on YouTube because of the backing that we have, and so that was I've done a lot of videos with Charlie McLean. Again, he's based here in Edinburgh. I was before I worked for Bevvy, I'd done a little bit of filming with them. We opened up the Macallan James Bond series, for example, and so we get such a fun, like open-minded owner where he recently done videos that went really, really well on YouTube where we opened up every Macallan folio from Macallan Folio 1. Nobody's doing that. A lot of people would laugh at that, but it's great content if you're into whiskey. And so the plan is that in the next couple of months I'll be filming 100 more videos drinking whiskey and doing what we're doing on a live and talking. We like this, we don't like this. I've done a video for Bevvy that was about a whiskey called Adams. I'd never heard of the distillery of the whiskey. Yeah. I'd never heard of it. And we done a
Adams.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a brewery, Adams Brewery, isn't there?
Yeah.
And
it was Adams Brewery, and they'd done a single malt that was bottled by Master of Malt. It was 7 years old. The video is hilarious on YouTube because Laurie and I are looking at each other saying, "So Adams, right?" And then we speak a wee bit about English distilleries, but we don't really know. And we try the whiskey, and we look at each other and we go, "That is really decent," and it's kind of this funny, hilarious, like. Or there's a video we do a daft mill for Ralphie. It was a release for Ralphie and another whiskey company, and we'll go to open the bottle for 15 minutes. And so the cut clips of that are just hilarious. So it's good whiskey content, and that's certainly where the more trendy side of, the people that are using this app are the bars that have QR code menus. It is the people who are new to whiskey. It's the young whiskey drinkers. It's forward-thinking whiskey drinkers. It's one of these things that come up in every single whiskey live. Everybody thinks of whiskey. They think of 80-year-old white guys sitting in a corner and doing what they want to do, and that's fantastic because that's, I suppose, what's maintained the industry. But it's not the reality of what whiskey is now. Whiskey is an inclusive space for everybody and anybody who wants to celebrate Scotland. That's my point of view, and so Bevvy is a fantastic platform to do that.
Absolutely, I love. There's some guys at home who are
scanning bottles.
Now scanning. They've obviously downloaded the app when they're scanning. I'm just going to say hello to Andy on Facebook. Andy Stott's come on. Hamish has come on from Inverness, and Phil is on. Good evening to all of you guys. Good evening, Ed. So David is now scanning bottles. He has a handful from Glengarry from 2019. So that's now went to you guys to find. What's Ed saying? A lot of his bottles seem to be missing last night. So Ross, you're not allowed to drink too much tonight because you've got a lot of work to do for finding all these bottles now.
So that's absolutely brilliant. If your bottle is missing, report it as missing, and we can add that to the portfolio. It's strange that I say that there's 100,000 bottles scanned. That seems like a lot.
It's not really, is it?
It isn't. And there's some things that, for example, like Springbank cage bottlings, we have to kind of humour them a little bit and kind of group them into one scan because they release 3 every 3 months for the last 40 years. So we can't do individual cast numbers for stuff like that. It's not feasible. It's not actually that useful because it's such a small database of the people that can actually have them. But if you scan a bottle that technology is not identified, that's brilliant because in the next 24 to 48 hours, our team will be able to add that bottle to our portfolio. You'll get a notification. You'll get some more information about it. I'll link you to the distillery. Hopefully you can learn about the distillery if you don't know already. So it's brilliant.
I hope that's what he means, that his bottles are missing off the list and he just can't find them. Like he's just
I went to scan my whiskey bottles. They're gone.
Oh, that's not the case, Ed.
How big is your team, Ross?
The whiskey team I work under for Laurie is about 5 or 6 full-time members of staff, all with whiskey career backgrounds. People that have worked
more than that. That's a lot of information you guys are compiling.
It's a lot. So we also have the tech side. There's another part of the business which is the tech side of the business, which is a whole other department. so it's one of the things. I only work in the Whisky team, which is your news, your articles, your daily scans, your new Whisky, and your event. Oh, went out again. So when we come to Edinburgh Whisky Festival and such, we'll be at the stand and talking a wee bit about what we do as well. So it's a relatively small team, as opposed to me joining 2 weeks ago. I brought a team up by about 20%, but it's a very informed team. I was so impressed having worked in all parts of the industry, as I said, doing Diageo and all the rest of it. I don't think I've met such a forward-thinking, informed team of people who are determined to make a success of something quite new.
That is awesome. If you don't mind me asking, it's a free app.
Yeah.
How do they manage to pay 6 full-time guys plus?
So this is the question. People always ask, so how are you going to make money from that? And what we'll say just now is that that's not awfully important to us at the moment, and that I've got a fantastic foundation. We've had quite a lot of success so far in the first 2 years working with a shell of a product, and the technology is only improving. So, I can't tell you exactly.
Sure.
There's something I can't say, but what I'll say is that the app does really well. We've got lots of interested parties who want to work with us in lots of different aspects, and so we're really not rushing what the next step. And the next 12 months is going to be really big for us, and these events have been fantastic for us to do. But yeah, I mean, we'll sponsor Hibs for 2 years. That doesn't just that takes we are the shirt sponsor and we're the main sponsor and partner for Hibernian football. It's not something that just you can just magic up. So we're very lucky. We've had lots of success from lots of different avenues so far. The app has lots of intrigue from some of the biggest and smallest companies in Scotland, and that's a brilliant thing for us. What we're going to do with the app is a really interesting. We're at a really interesting point just now. There's lots of different ways we can go. There's lots of different options. I think that retail is something that is automatic. I think the idea that you can scan your bottle and then immediately buy another on the app is something that the future can only produce. It's just who you want to work with, who you want to represent, and how that happens. So
I guess
gives people. Well, I kind of dodged around. I know I dodged around that question a little bit.
No, I didn't expect you to say, "Oh yes, this is how we're making money." It just, I can't see how the team is huge. You're sponsoring Premiership football teams and stuff. It's incredible.
The thing I say about Bevvy when I speak to people in different brands about it and what we can do in the future is people always say it seems too good to be true.
Yeah.
And so my answer is enjoy too good to be true. Enjoy it because it's something that you don't get very often. If it seems too good to be true, it doesn't. Okay, maybe it is too good to be true. Maybe it doesn't make sense for us to have such a young, enthusiastic, forward-thinking whisky team in a company that is relatively new and that is always growing every single day. The users, guys and girls that are watching the stream just now that have downloaded the app, fantastic. That's great for us. And scan every bottle you have. And that will help us. My team won't be thanking me. The team won't be thanking me for that, but it's brilliant. And yeah, we're aiming high. There's lots of different things that can happen. It seems too good to be true because it's a really good product.
Yeah.
You definitely don't need to commit to anything. When you download it, you don't need to put your name or anything in it. You can just use it. You're not committed. You could just get rid of it straight away if you didn't want it.
Exactly.
That was something that Phil had asked earlier on. He was wondering how secure the app is to use. Everyone's kind of cyber security conscious now.
Yeah, you don't need to. You don't need to add anything. You don't need to add your real name. You don't need to make an account to scan bottles. So if you make an account when we have the ballots going forward and so we've not had any problems with the idea of how secure the app is so far in the last 2 years pre-existing me. It's not something of course, it's a very sensible question to ask. It's not something we've had a problem with whatsoever. Whether you add your name, whether you add your email, whether you add your card details to enter ballots, we've done that. We've done that before. We've done a few ballots so far that have sold it immediately. We'll have however many users who may have their entire information, their address, blah blah blah. You don't need to worry about the safety.
I wouldn't suggest scanning your 400 bottle whiskey collection with your front door in the background, though. That's probably
no. Well, but here's the thing: the only people that are going to see it is the whiskey team. If nobody else.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, nobody. Yeah. Well, we are getting on, mate. Apart from the one thing you said about Commander, okay. It's one of those things that. Even if, for example, if you scan a bottle that's in our database that we don't have an image for, so you'll be the first person that scanned it, but we have logged that the whiskey exists. You might look at the bottle after the scan, and it'll have your scan as the image. You're the only person that can see that, for example.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's I think when new tech and people that are maybe got very, very traditional points of view and don't use much technology, obviously it is quite alien marrying something like whiskey and technology. But that's what we need to do, as an industry.
I was going to ask about the name as well. Steve, who's watching on YouTube, has just joined us. He was asking about the name.
As I say, it's not necessarily something that I could comment on, but what I'll say, for example, if in some fantastic world, and this is just saying this for the sake of it, if we were to open a distillery, the distillery would not be called Bevvy.
No.
and so a situation where the app now works for whiskey, could work for rum, does now work for some rums, could work for any spirit in theory. And so you drink something, or you go into a shop and you want to learn information about it, you can bevy it. You can scan your bottle, no matter the spirit, and so that will work. But the brand is bigger, I would say, than the name, because a lot of people, the name's different to what you'd expect.
Yeah, it's a very kind of central belt name for a.
It is a very Scottish drinking whiskey term, going for a bet.
It doesn't necessarily need to be understood as a colloquial term for alcohol, does it? It could just be like a catchy name for an app. Like, you don't really need to know, I guess, that it's like a Glaswegian word for boozing. But
you don't tweet it, you bevy it. Yeah.
It sounds optimistic to me. But I think we should be, I absolutely think that in a few years' time, if I have a rum I've never had before, I'll bevy it. And that'll work okay for me. And I'll think less about, obviously I've got to have that point of view and got to be that optimistic. But less of the negative, he's got a bevy problem, more of a, this is a fantastic log.
We're making it into an adjective. We're going to make bevy into an adjective. I'm just going to bevy that. It's like Google. I'm just going to Google that, and then I'm going to bevy it.
I'm going to Google that. Yeah. Oh, what's that bottle? Do you know anything about it? No. I'll bevy it.
I guess having a bevy problem could be going back to that TikTok when you're sitting on the phone, you've got numb legs after standing up from the toilet or whatever. I love the app. I've been playing about with it while we've been chatting as well.
I've been playing with it on and off all day.
On here.
It's really good.
The one thing I would say is, so I got a new phone recently and I downloaded some whiskey apps, Whiskey Searcher, Whiskey Hunter, these kind of things, Distiller. I did see Bevvy, and I'll be honest, I scrolled past it because it seemed, I don't know how to say this without offending anyone, but it seemed...
Just be honest, you're okay.
Yeah, almost chavvy for us. It didn't seem...
And is it the name rather than...
Yeah, for me, a bevy is but the way you described it there is for these forward drinking drinkers who are kind of this. Yeah, I turned 40 last week, so I'm maybe just a dinosaur now. For
well, here's the thing, mate. I hate to break it to you that you're still a very young whiskey drinker at 40. It's one of those things that, and there is a large proportion of the whiskey industry who have never downloaded apps.
Yeah,
and so for those people, the reality is, okay, maybe I would say Bevvy's target audience is any whiskey drinker. and anybody who likes the whiskey industry.
It's
but they're
so easy to use.
massive
I'm so glad you've come on and found it now because of that.
If I was to ask a lot of whiskey drinkers, have you been on the App Store recently? It wouldn't be unusual for them to say they've never been in the App Store. What street's it on? Do you know, it's one of those things that. And
is
so,
that shop that sells computers?
And so I'll certainly say that I think for most users with whiskey now,
yeah,
and for the audience that are scanning their bottles, whether they're whiskey collectors, collected them for years, traveled the world, or all people from all over the world scanning their collections, whether it's people that work in tech, whether it's people that are young people that are into whiskey or work at distilleries and so on and so forth. Most of them go, this is a great platform to use, and will know about it before they download it. Whereas I can certainly concede that maybe if you were just scrolling on whiskey apps and you've seen Bevvy, that maybe you wouldn't look at the name of it and be drawn to it if you were from a certain point of view from whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Like, it's choosing something that catches interest at the same time you want it to be like, I don't know, an app demographic, because a lot of young people are mainly young people are.
It is an app. It is a whiskey app fundamentally, and so that's new. And so for a lot of people, new is daunting. Do you know?
Rick's just come up with a great question, and it's something I was going to ask about. You guys must, because of this app, have so much data that
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, sorry.
I'll try to speak more clearly. Sorry.
Please. Yeah. We must have so much
data available. What bottles are getting scanned? Do you get access to where that person is? Like, or could you find out if I scan a bottle? Could you say, "Oh, that's Inverurie"?
If you wanted to add all those details to your account, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say that's something that we look at too much. I would say that certainly you look at the bottles that are most scanned. It's really interesting to me to see the bottles that are most scanned.
Do you have a list of the top 10?
Yeah. Yeah. So as I said earlier, stuff like Ardbeg 10. I am shocked how much Ardbeg 10 is scanned. It's a brilliant dram. It's something that for example, my father's always had in his house and never really done much with. But Ardbeg 10 is something that's scanned every day.
It's so funny because so often the thing I hear from people is I don't like peated whiskey, but Ardbeg and Lagavulin and Kalila.
Yeah, Ardbeg and Lagavulin, and again, you look at a North American point of view, maybe. So again, my girlfriend's from Michigan. In Michigan, they get Oban, Glenfiddich, Glenlivet, Macallan, Lagavulin, and Lafroig. That's kind of what you get, and so those 6 bottles scanned a lot because that's what you get. Whereas you go to whiskey collectors, you see that if one user has scanned 600 bottles, you go onto their scans, which you can do. Their scans will have really unusual, intricate, fantastic bottlings, you know? So it's hard to say almost like in different platforms, you've got like a casual user and you've got a hardcore user. And so your casual user will scan Macallan 18, Lagavulin 16, Ardbeg 10, and that's fantastic because the technology gets it every single time. Whereas somebody that works in a whiskey shop, they're going to scan cask samplings and interesting Glenallichies and all the rest of it, where it might be challenged initially and give you suggestions and see what you're looking for. But yeah, the database having over 100,000 scans is massive. And as I say, it grows every single day. So for anybody that's scanning a bottle they've got at home, if it works, brilliant. Leave a little rating for your whiskey, add to that database as well, add it to one of your lists, whatever you want to do. And for people that scan their whiskey, it doesn't work. If you search it, it's not there, report missing bottle, we'll get it sorted. And again, that adds to the database of hopefully a fantastic portfolio of whiskey where if Kat was to scan something and it wouldn't work, we could add it. And you scan the same bottle a week later, Mike, it should work perfectly. And so that's why the data is a positive data, because you've had a fantastic experience because of the work that Kat's put in and the team's put in.
I was going to ask a question, but Mike, you look like you've been waiting to ask a question first.
No, all I was going to say is I love the idea of being a hardcore Bevvy user, but
Yeah.
being legit and not having social work turn up at the door.
Yeah.
We should champion that. That should be your merch, hardcore Bevvy user.
The merch is great. Yeah, definitely get some more merch for the events and stuff.
Well, we've already sorted Callum's merch for the bar last week, so we've sorted your merch. I was going to ask, so our our users allowed to put up their own personal reviews of whiskies?
So whiskey notes is something we've added to the whiskey portfolios. Right now, whiskey notes are private to the user. You'll find on certain whiskies, for example, if you do scan Ardbeg 10, not only will you get the distillery information about Ardbeg, but you may get a Dave Broom or a Charlie McLean distillery profile as well for information. Whiskey notes is something we're looking into, whether we want to make them a kind of public forum style thing as well, where so Kat can speak about this Glengarry 17-year-old and add your notes, and then that can help anybody else who scans it.
Yeah,
it's hard.
That was good. My question of how do you moderate sort of people being negative just for the sake of being negative?
Well, it's one of those things that there needs to be a reasonable. Some people will put so much detail into saying what they think about the whiskey and the distillery, and some people might just comment this.
There just now, don't you?
Yeah, some people might scan the bottle and say, "I thought this was shite," and they might have never tasted the whiskey.
Yeah.
And so that's a hard thing to monitor, and I think right now it's not something that we're too overly keen to rush. But I think right now you can add your own notes to your whiskies, to your own profile. Again, nothing's public, everything's very secure, so you can add your notes. If you go to a bar, you scan a bottle, you taste the whiskey, you can add your own notes in the list about that whiskey. So you could add a list of drams tried in the Quake bar in Kirrigallicky Hotel. You could add notes about every single one of those whiskies, and when you go back a year later, you can look at your notes and see what you thought about it. But right now, your notes wouldn't be published to anybody else.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I guess Stephen's just going to come on with a comment on YouTube that I was going to kind of in Whiskey Base's example he used is you could just do a direct link, view reviews on Whiskey Base or something like that, where if people want to review it or they want to do that side of things, click a link.
Yeah, and if Whiskey Base wanted to allow that to. But
it doesn't have to be Whiskey Base, but that's an example of.
So for example, what we're trying to do just now, Mike, and I'll talk about the content, is that, and this is something they've done with previous bottling, so the Wireworks ballot, for example, where we're able to do, and obviously it's something that's going to take a lot of time, where, say, for example, in this next set of filming we do, I do a video on Ardbeg 10. We've got the technology where you can scan your bottle of Ardbeg 10, you can find all your information, but there'll also be a video link of me talking about it, or one of our team talking about it. So there's some Phage bottlings. Our teams went over to Phage for the last 2 years. And so you scan some of these Phage bottlings from Bunnahabhain, it's got a direct link to one of our whiskey team, Lewis, on the pier at Bunnahabhain with a distillery worker talking about that bottle. So that content's fantastic. Could we do that for every single bottle? It'll be hard. But that's something. But it's something that it's amazing content that you can scan your bottle of Bunnahabhain Phage 2023, and then not only see stuff about Bunnahabhain, stuff about Phage, but also you can see at the distillery a worker who's maybe produced the whiskey, one of the whiskey team, talk about the whiskey you've just scanned, so that you can get really, really detailed through the media aspect of it as well.
I mean, but you've got my creative juices flowing just now. Would there be an opportunity? So I've bought this bottle of Tomatin Caribbean cask. I've just opened it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to scan it. There we go. Actually, I want to tell people about it. I could record myself talking about it. That gets into you guys. You think, actually, this is a pretty good review. We can post that. So punters could actually put their reviews and videos across.
So somebody could scan that bottle, they could see Mike Stewart has drank that tomato, and here's a link to his video via the app. That could absolutely happen.
Yeah.
And I'd say that the people, if you scan certain bottles, I said about Charlie McLean and Dave Broom writing about this bottling distillery profiles. We've got a small collection of independent whiskey reviewers who are happy for us to use their views, and it's a very similar thing where they then have their profiles or whatever on the app and they speak about the whiskey. So it'd be exactly the same where, yeah, you could scan a tomato and it could say, Mike from Inverary Whiskey Shop thinks this, click the link, and it could take them to your review of it. The Bevvy app could work exactly in that way.
I dare say you guys would have to approve, because if everyone did it, or it might be a subscription service or something, you would have to have some kind of.
I don't think a subscription service is something that's, or a premium membership is something that's been spoken about. That's not really
hardcore Bevvy premium service. Yeah.
And so something we're looking into is the more bottles you scan, the more Bevvy points you get, and how will that work in the future? Well, if you come to Edinburgh Whisky Festival with me and Laurie, and you are a gold member, 500 Bevvy points, maybe I'll have a dram under the table for you. There's so much potential with this technology.
I'm just going to tell Ed to stop scanning his bottles now until that comes about. You save those points, Ed. Save the points until that happens.
But yeah, there's so much potential with what is effectively your private collection, your private whiskey app, your private whiskey companion, and there's so much we
Here's
can.
the plot synopsis.
I'm gonna keep my laptop keep going, and there's so much we can do with it. There's so many directions we can go in. The more content,
really,
the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Do you know what really set the cat amongst the pigeons? Is if you had a serving suggestion page, or like best served with.
I suggest
drop down
drops of
menu.
water, but my colleagues suggest have a neat. Yeah.
Can you imagine?
I
That would
think
be great.
It's one of those things. Whiskey is, and our user base is probably incredibly diverse in terms of everybody's opinions on how you drink whiskey as well. And it's something you come across being really experienced in the industry or being new to the industry. I had a good friend, an ex-colleague, visit a distillery on the West Coast recently. He said he had a really good tour. And then after the tour, he went to the distillery bar where he was told never to add water to whiskey. And so that's, and he said he was utterly disappointed, having visited such a distillery he'd been meaning to visit for quite some time, and he was in the entire distillery experience was let down by one old point of view.
I had the same. I went to a distillery and it was fantastic. Like, I loved the distillery, what they were doing. The spirit was amazing. And the guide at the end of the tasting pretty much told us, why would you bother buying single malt when you could just go into Aldi and get a blend for like 23 quid? And like, well, yes, you can. And like, I'm sure they're very good, but I'd quite like to buy the single malt that we've just spent an hour hearing about and I'm actually really enjoying there. Yeah. He's like, it's just not worth it. It's like, well, it kind of is.
Yeah.
Then afterwards, I don't know if I want to. Yeah, it's difficult when people are maybe quite vocal on a set opinion.
Aye, that is quite difficult. What are you dramming now? I've just finished my grain whiskey, actually.
Well, I was going to go back to Rick. Rick was asking, what was your opinion of Glengarry? Sorry, Rick, because that question, like, I did see it up there ages ago, but we just got
to work now. He's
of the distillery.
No, of your dram of the 17-year. I'm sure Rick asked. I'm sure he asked further up.
We'll get your opinion of the distillery privately.
17-year-old Renaissance, I thought was really, really nice. I had a touch of water to almost every whiskey I have. I think maybe I'm a little bit sensitive in that way. But Glengarry's not a distillery I've come across a lot, other than the Founders Reserve and the 12. So I'll say this 17 was delightful. I would say I prefer the new style Glengarry to the was it 92 or 93 lightly peated style?
Pre-95.
95, lightly peated style. Because if I want a Highland whiskey, I think a lot of the time I want that kind of fresh, maybe slightly peppery, slightly spicy, but generally sweeter style. But yeah, loved it. It's something I'm very glad I bought it. I mean, I cracked it open tonight. I didn't notice the wee 1797 on the cork
cork.
before.
Yeah,
Very good.
There you go.
But
Quite a robust bottle
yeah.
as well. Like, you could drop that and have no impact except on your floorboards and your toes. Like, it's very
Yeah,
robust with our glass.
as I said, 1881. My entire floor might collapse if I drop the bottle of Glengarry on it. But yeah, I think I'll go for my next jam. I'm gonna drink a wee Aaron. Oh, a wee
Oh,
Aaron
nice.
21.
Is that the 21?
Yeah, it's a bottle that I've had for 3 years because I got it for my 21st birthday. So I've got so much whiskey open. So
that's making me feel old.
Yeah, sorry. I look older. I mean, I've had a hard shift, clearly.
Kat, you're old enough to be his mother.
Oh, don't! That's depressing.
I don't think you are. I'm joking.
My eldest is 16. You're 23.
24,
I mean,
yeah. That's massive.
Do you know what? Let's just not even do the math and let's just move on.
What are you drinking just now?
Well, I opened a Glenallachie just because we were all speaking about it. Oh, you're got Glenallachie too?
Yeah, just that 12-year-old I spoke about. Yeah.
And what is that? What were you got?
The Cuvée one, the wine one.
Lovely.
Because I was thinking about Glenallachie with their new Meikle.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was thinking Meikle Tap, but that's a hill, isn't it? Meikle Tor.
Yeah. So I've not seen a lot about it. Yeah, Laurie and another member of the whiskey team were at the event in Edinburgh last night, hosted by Billy Walker.
Oh, wow.
Who was that, sorry?
Billy Walker was hosting an event for it. So Laurie, the head he's in charge of the whiskey team for Bevvy, and one of our whiskey team members were at the event last night. I just came back
in Edinburgh last night?
Yeah, it was in Edinburgh. So it was good. Yeah. I think it was
I was at the Glenallachie one at the distillery on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
It was really good.
I think it was good. In Edinburgh, it was about 40 or 50 guests. I think it was really well put together. It's just such a great appetite for new whiskey right now across the Central Belt as well.
Port Elise opened was it last night? The Port Elise had their opening too, or was it the night before?
Yeah. Swedish Whiskey Girl was there. I seen and
I saw that. I'm trying to get her on the chat, but she's hard to pin down. If you've got her on WhatsApp, give her a message.
I'm sure you can get Moa on, no problem. It's best to go through. Yeah, best to go through Cody. Our partner is the European brand ambassador for Angus Dundee, so he's.
That's an easier connection. Hang on.
Yeah.
Are they okay?
Yeah, and Cody's a great. He's an absolute gentleman.
Yeah, he's been on a few on the Glencadam appreciation page, and Cody's done a lot of work with them.
Yeah,
as well.
So I mean, he's ex-SWE. The Scotch Whisky Experience up in Edinburgh should have like an alumni for whisky industry, because it's fantastic the amount of people that have come from there that are working all over now. Yeah. Really nice people. And I think he's down to London this weekend for a London Whisky Show. Sorry?
Yeah, was he not Dornick? Was he not ex Whisky Exchange? And such, because I think he knows Swedish.
Maybe.
I'm sure he.
There's so many guys. Mark Watt was WS as well, wasn't he? It's an endless list of who's who. I
didn't even mention that I worked for SMWS between Diageo and
okay.
Drop that in there another week.
I've been a bit of a tart.
24.
Everywhere,
Listen, I'm very, very lucky. I've had a lot of strange situations, but you're nice to everybody and you're enthusiastic, and the opportunities come. It's one of those things. I didn't apply to join Bevvy. It's one of those things that just an opportunity came up and was approached for the right thing.
So Stephen's singing praises. Stephen's on YouTube. He's just scanned 2 bottles: the Eureka Daft Mill 2010 and a Dramore Ben Runnis 12 successfully added. He
I
is
love that
just away
everybody's at
sampling.
home pinging away. I love that.
Hey,
Great, yeah.
listen, I am delighted and welcome to Bevvying your collection. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Steve, yes, you were on our YouTube. I don't think we were on YouTube with Kenny. I think it was a Zoom tasting we did when Kenny was live in the shop. Unless we have a Kenny on the chat as well. So perhaps I'm not sure if you were on the Blether or if you did us live at a tasting. We've actually got Kenny up in the shop next week doing a tasting again. So if you haven't got a pack for that, guys, I'm just going to shamelessly plug that. There is still some tickets left. There you go. He's just poured a lightly peated Rassi.
Well, a lightly pester Rassi, which I love.
I mean, we all like to lightly pester Rassi, don't we?
You gotta love it. Autocorrect.
Autocorrect's great. Peat is one. It's you think the amount of people who talk about peated whiskey, peat would become part of generic autocorrect, but no, it always changes it to neat or pest. It's the two things I always get when I try peat.
It was like whenever we had Oloroso, it would always be Ola Russell. That was always my favorite.
Yeah.
I never had Ola Russell. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, we had a guy who works for us called Russell as well, so it was even better.
Did we find out what you were putting into your glass there, Ross? Did we? Oh, that's what I was going to ask you, actually. Have you seen, sorry, it was Anne, I remember now, but have you seen the study that links people's surnames to the occupation that they choose in life? Because you're the second person.
I have not.
Oh my God. So we had Christian
Sherry, yeah.
Christiane Sherry. And I asked her about this, and she'd heard of it before, and somebody clever on the chat said what the name of it is. But then when I saw your last name, I was like, oh my God, this is just proving it to be true.
Yeah, Ross Barr, Barr. Unfortunately, no links to Iron Brew or any of that kind of.
Well, I was going to say, you're in the wrong national drink for a bar.
But I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't possibly comment. As I say, I have worked in a bar and was pretty terrible at the bartending part of it. But yeah, Ross Barr. It's a very dull
aptronym or something like that, as it's called. Aptronym.
The study, the study, the link. Yeah, there's something. I can't remember who it was that knew the name of it, but there was somebody on the chat that knew about this study that linked. So it's like Usain Bolt runs around for a living. Well, yeah, there's more to it than that, but.
Yeah, he's not quite Forrest Gump, but yeah.
But yeah, there you go. That was.
I'm definitely not pouring big enough drams because that's me had 3 drams, but they must have been tiny.
It's because that high ceilings, the evaporation with all that beautiful
I also think having these silly crystal glasses, which I don't know why I've got, because I've got perfectly good Glencairns in these wee Ardnahoe bags. Must be less space in the glass.
It must be. I mean, I've got a Glengarry glass here, and it's definitely less than that. Look at the size of it.
So
you got a baby one.
I can't even fit a nip in it. Look at
that. There you go, Glengarry. So I proposed to my now fiance about 2 weeks ago up at the Carlton Hill at top end, overlooking the city. Thanks so much. And the
overlooking where, sorry?
Up at Carlton Hill, looking over the city. And the first thing she drank was champagne out of a Glengarry Glencairn as a fiance, and that was totally accidental, I will say. But there you go.
I love that.
Yeah, so these are the wee bags that I took up.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, accidentally. Yeah, so I brought a bottle of
champagne.
Accidentally. Well, I brought a bottle of champagne again, perhaps naively assuming she'd say yes. But I only had Glencairns in my bag, so yeah, Glencairn was the first thing she drank.
I'm just going to pour a celebration. This is the bottle I opened last week for my 40th birthday. I'm going to have another wee dram for you.
A handful.
It looks even darker this week.
I've got
You
to
got-
say, I can't beat that, Mike. That's pretty.
I got this bought by our Whisky Academy group because my son was born during the academy, so they were at Glendronach and they bought that for me. I opened it last week for my 40th, so here's another dram. Congratulations on your engagement.
Yeah, congratulations on your engagement.
Yeah, cheers. Let me.
Allow me your limerick.
I'll run into my wardrobe and get another dram.
That's a big wardrobe.
That is a big word, like Narnia. Like, with, oh my God, Whiskey
He's going to
Narnia.
come back out with snow and everything. He's going to be covered in snow when he walks back out.
Dressed as a fawn. I agree with Stephen. Glengarry is a lovely and relatively under the radar dram. Yes, it is.
It needs to stay that way. It needs to stay under the radar. I like having it just next door.
Yeah, I do kind of feel like that. It's like when you discover. I know. We'll keep it a secret. Nobody tell anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like to talk about it every week because it's a secret.
Yeah, we need enough people to drink it, so I still have a job, though. We're loving your Narnia wardrobe of whiskey.
Bizarre. I didn't actually realise I had a walk-in wardrobe until I moved in, which is brilliant.
Did you not do a viewing first? No.
Well, I'll be honest. My lovely fiance is not a whiskey lover, so I've got about not like a crazy amount, but maybe like 60 or 70 bottles, and they're all shoved into that cupboard, that wardrobe. So a really unusual Adelphi 5-year-old Ben Nevis that was done for Lochfine Whiskies a few years ago. So I'll bring a couple of funky drams. That's quite fun. And then SMWS 26, so a Klein Leash. It was an exclusive for the vaults. And so the ex-general manager, Gregor, gave me this bottle. It was exclusive for the vaults in 2022. It's an oily and coastal Klein Leash. I think that's what I'll go for, something a wee bit different.
Nice.
So you uploaded your collection to Bevvy. Have you bevied your collection?
I've bevied a lot of it, but it takes a lot of time. I know it sounds ridiculous for me to say no, but I had Bevvy before I worked for Bevvy, and I'd scanned a few bottles. And then in order to learn the technology, I had to learn it as a user before I could learn it as an admin. Okay. And so I tried and failed scanning, 150 bottles or something. The technology should work in a way that if you get a piece of paper and you write Glenfarclas 12 or Glenfarclas 15, 46%, the technology should pick that up as a bottle of Glenfarclas 15, 46% because you get the percentage, because you get the name, because you get the age statement. So trying to understand how that worked initially, then try to understand how it works off the face of a bottle took a lot of scanning. But everything I've got is open pretty much. I've got a couple of drams that I was gifted that I'm just waiting for a reason to open, kind of thing. The only things I don't have open, I will open. I just need a reason for it. I've got a thing for collecting 1999s, but
okay.
But I'll still
is that your year?
Is that your year birth?
1999 is my year. It's the last time I'll mention it.
Oh, it hurts.
That hurts more than 24.
At least you're pre-millennium. That's good.
Yeah.
You're a 19.
No, it's great. You guys, you can ID people from 2004 or whatever.
It's when you ID somebody in this in your workplace, you're like, yeah, try again, and then you do the math, like, oh no, wait, you are right.
You want to give them a wee hug, help them back to the bus and put them on and say, right, off you go.
I know.
Yeah. So David Muir has confirmed, acronym is what it's called.
Okay. So it must have been David Lane that got the name for me.
Quite possible. Phil
cool.
Dixon, his first distillery he visited 30 years ago. I'm guessing that Klein Leash is what he's talking about, the bottle you opened. On your app, on the Bevvy app, Ross, if somebody scans an SMWS bottle?
Brilliant question. I hadn't even set this up, Mike. So we had to develop an entire different set of technology to identify SMWS bottlings and the codes.
Yeah.
And so please, if you have SMWS bottlings, please scan them. We are so incredibly proud that it now works. So this says 26.190. Now the tech should pick that up, and the percentage of alcohol should pick that up and work. And again, if it doesn't, it's not been scanned before, we can add that to the database. But yes, it's a great question, because that was a big pain for the for the team before I joined, as far as I'm aware. It's the first thing I asked. I was like, I've got 15 bottles less than, but yes, will they work? And they said, yeah, please scan them. So an entire different style of tech to identify the numbers, the point, the numbers again. It's so incredible. What we do is we represent the brand, and we tell people how great it is for whiskey, how great it can be for Scotland, but we're just championing whiskey overall, because how great is whiskey and how great is working in whiskey. But the fact that works now, it does all the hard work for it. It's pretty impressive.
So if I do a search or a scan, and because I know that SMWS themselves are very protective over the somebody put it online and it became common knowledge and all that.
Yeah.
If I did that and I looked for an SMWS bottling, will it tell me the distillery? Do you guys go that far, or do you just?
That's a great question. If I wasn't on my phone right now, if my laptop had worked, I would test it for you right now. I'm fairly confident it will tell you the distillery.
Okay.
So that's going to be my question as well. You know, like all the sort of undisclosed distilleries that you can sometimes guess, but sometimes don't know.
So again, that's the kind of the key word fixture we have into the technology. So probably Speyside's Finest should come up with a Glenfarclas distillery.
That's cool.
But secret Speyside, as no chance. Or a secret Highland.
He's going to check it out for us. He's going to test it.
Kiss me.
Yeah. SWSs, they should work. If you do, something like a probably Speyside's Finest, a lot of the tech will pick it up if it's been scanned before. But Secret Isla, Secret Speyside are just you can scan the bottle. One of our team can identify the vintage, the bottler, try to give you some more information on it. We can add it to the database, but we can't tell you the distillery if we don't know it.
So, like a lot of the teaspoon ones that have like a separate name that whiskey people usually know.
If you scan a Burnside, you scan a Ward Head, they should work. If you scan, look at distillery profiles for Towie and Glen Craig, the old Lomond stilled Glenburgies and Milton Duffs, and this is where my nerdiness really comes out, and it's the database is so impressive and so vast, and that's the work that the guys have put in. Laurie's team's put in before I joined Laurie's team. That's
actually cool, because I still get thrown with names like that. I'm like, am I meant to know what those are?
I had a dram. I had a Thompson Bros dram last week, and it was a Glenmorangie with a teaspoon of Glenmurray, and I can't even think of the name of it right now.
That is.
Do you know what? We need an app that would work this out for us.
Scan that bottle and it'll tell you. And I wish I could remember the name of it, and it's going to it's really going to really get me.
Somebody's going to put it in here soon.
Yard.
Okay.
You're high. Very good.
Yard. I'm sure it's Yardhead, because there's some common with Dalrymple. Is also be.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's Westport. Westport is Glenmorangie.
Westport. It is Westport. Yeah, so I had a 27-year-old Westport or something from Thompson Bros last week. I'm like, what the hell is Westport? Knowing it must have been a teaspoon dram.
Yeah, because Yardhead is Glenfiddich teaspoon with Balvenie.
Wardhead. Wardhead. Yeah, Wardhead is Glenfiddich, teaspoon of Balvenie, and Burnside is Balvenie with a teaspoon of Glenfiddich.
I've actually got a wee Dalrymple here. Have you come across the Dalrymple?
I haven't. I have not come across. I've never tasted a Dalrymple.
I'll send you a wee sample of this one down. Dalrymple is Yeah, we could say it. The Ailsa Bay.
Do they not have like the 3 words code on it anyway?
They didn't do that on this one actually.
Oh, okay.
Because I think the idea. So Little Brown Dog did a. You'll notice there's a wee teaspoon just behind the label, indicating a teaspoon because they have to put blended malt, and whether you believe that they actually go around a teaspoon, whatever it's. But the granite is also the indication of what the distillery is. Ailsa Bay, obviously being famous for the curling stones.
I have to admit, I'm not familiar with Little Brown Dog as an independent bottler.
Oh, wow.
Tell me more.
You need to bevvy it.
This is the thing. It's likely that have you scanned it?
I haven't.
Yeah, no. Scan it.
Yeah, I did. The first bottle I scanned was the McMira Bevvy. The McMira LBD.
Little Brown Dog, because again, I've not seen it, but it is most likely scanned at some point.
They are fantastic. Aberdeenshire based.
Seems like a rare one. Yeah, Dalrymple. Yeah, you got it. Bang on.
I got it. There you go. So somebody scanned it before you.
Yeah. That's so cool.
That's bizarre to me because I've never heard. That's fantastic. And so, you'll see
that a month ago, so it's probably before your time.
And so, if you scroll down, does it tell you about the bottle or the distillery or anything in that circumstance?
Dalrymple, Lowland, blended malt, Little Brown Dog, 56.8%. Yeah. Average value for 16, 8 out of 10. I have to tell Andrew he's slipping up. There's only 8 out of 10 here. So these guys are quite local to us. They're
cool.
The Little Brown Dog. You have to check them out. They are such a good indie bottle.
It sounds fantastic if they're doing really, really interesting liquid like that.
They are, and they make some really.
That'll be my next dram.
I think Keith can confirm, by the way, that it does state the distillery name for the SMWS.
SMWS. Yeah. I've scanned SMWS bottles. Here's the thing: SMWS haven't worked for them. The higher ups, obviously, I think it's a bit more of almost a tradition now that it's no number system rather than naming it. Everybody knows number one's Glenfarclas.
Yeah.
Do you know? And so the Whisky Saga gets every single click that they produce off of the fact that they are the top for SMWScodes.com or whatever it is. And it's brilliant. I think it's one of those things quite unapologetic that even when I worked at SMWS, people were ordering the whiskies by the distillery name in the venues. So, you had 2 Glen Grants out, or 2 number 9s rather, and somebody would say, "I'll have the 18-year-old Glen Grant, please," and you were just to know, yeah, no problem. You weren't correct them saying, "Do you mean a 9.236 or So
it's like a Chinese restaurant when you just order stuff by the numbers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Glen Grant's egg fried rice.
That'd be amazing. If I ever get a whiskey bar, that's exactly what I'm going to do. You need to just order by number. It'll be 3 number 21s and a 26.
Yeah. I'll have a number 3 combo meal, please. Whiskey drink.
Just the buffet. I'll go for the banquet for 2, please.
Yeah, the sharing platter. I'll do the sharing platter.
It's a red label, black label, and a green label.
So, what kind of you go into a bar, Ross, and this is the kind of question we like asking guys like yourself who's not brands orientated. What's your first look for? What do you look for in a bar? What kind of like bourbon, sherry, or peaty, or?
So it's one of those things. I having only worked in Scotch since I was 18. I'm a massive bourbon drinker, like American whiskey.
Okay.
So my go-to, no matter the time of day, no matter where I am, is something from the northeast in a bourbon cask. Mostly ex-Pernod distilleries. If you've got a Glenbergie, a Milton Duff, in bourbon casks, I'm gonna love it. Pretty much 9 out of 10.
Me and June are gonna be friends forever.
I I adore, although it's unlikely I'll work for Diageo again. I adore the Flora and Fauna range. So if I'm in a pub that's got a Flora and Fauna, I like pretty much every single release done by them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm primarily drinking whiskey bars, and being based in the Central Belt, I'm very lucky. We've got the Athletic Arms in the West End of Edinburgh, known as Diggers. It's 750 single malt whiskies. The owner, Kev, will drive to Aberlour, buy their 4 distillery exclusives, and put them on the bar at incredibly reasonable prices. They're 35 mils. And so you go into a bar like that, you ask them what's new, you try something interesting. 9 times out of 10, if I go into a whiskey bar, I don't order my first whiskey. I'll take a recommendation.
Okay.
Most of the time.
I think one of the guys mentioned Diggers in the chat.
I'm just looking back just now as we speak. Somebody recommended Diggers as a great place in Edinburgh.
Diggers for me, I would say, that's the brightness again. I would say Diggers for me is the best whiskey pub in Scotland.
Okay.
Oh wow. We need to go.
Now, whiskey pub, it's one of those things. It's a whiskey pub. It's not a whiskey bar. You don't get cocktails. You don't get it. But but the horse racing's on. The horse racing's on at 11. You can get distillery exclusives. You get an authentic experience. I'd say you need to kind of know what you're looking for, but the list is fantastic. It's the best whiskey pub for me in Scotland. If I'm in Glasgow, I will never not visit the Pot Still. Frank and what they do at the Pot Still. And what I'd say about the Pot Still as well is everybody that works there loves it.
Mm-hmm.
So you go into a bar like that, I immediately say I'd like something in bourbon, cask strength, independently bottled, 10 to 15 quid a nip, and I'll get 4 great suggestions.
Yeah.
And so that's so fun for me. To see what stuff I've not had before. I hope that answers your question. I'm also a sherry tart. I started Glendronach Allardyce is pro. My father's a massive Tamdhu fan.
Mm-hmm.
Tamdhu is a whiskey that I was force fed when I turned 18, and so having spent time at the distillery with Sandy, the distillery manager, I'm definitely a sherry tart as well in the right circumstance.
I love that expression, a sherry tart. Can we use that more often, please?
That's it. I'm a sherry tart in the right circumstance for sure. Peated whiskey is something that I am slightly naive towards, in the sense that I think my palate struggles with peated whiskey, and that's because I could say maybe I've had, I don't know, 1,600 whiskies from 18 to 24, and 200 of them have been peated. And so it's something that I'd really struggle with. And when on Islay, when I visited Islay, I loved it. Of course I did. And I'm not sure if it's the placebo effect. I'm not sure if it's psychological. I think it is. I do think it is, because I wouldn't thank you for a Lafroig or an Ardbeg, because they kick my arse. It's not because they're not great whiskies. It's because it's not my style of whiskey.
I think you're fine, probably. And it's like eating the tomato as a kid. You just don't do it. You don't like it. And I have found so many people, and I've had the shop almost as long as you've been legal to drink whiskey. I've had the shop almost 8 years. But in conversation with people, they get introduced to whiskey with bourbon cask, maybe something a bit lowland, quite light, quite grassy, quite fresh, really fruity. Yeah. They then graduate to sherry, then peat, because as the palate develops, the lighter, sweeter flavors don't do it. They want something with a kick. They want something with a heavy. And that's where they get to that peak of probably around about 40 to 50 years old. They'll get that peak where they think, "Oh, this is great." By 55, 60, they're like, "Peat's too much." And the palate starts to wane off, and they want to go back to that nice, relaxing, gentle feel.
Go back to that.
For anyone watching from any age group, that is a very generic.
Yeah, I think.
I'm not
what I used to often.
Group, but
I think you're spot on. I think it's what I used to say when I was doing whiskey tastings for clientele from all over the world, and I said I don't drink black coffee yet. And maybe by the time I'm 40, I'll drink black coffee. Maybe by the time I'm 40,
oh, you will. You will.
Do you know what I mean? And maybe I'll be able to get the subtleties in Lafroig. Right now,
Yeah.
Right now, Lafroig's a dare to me. I dare you to drink it. It's not something that I and my palate can get much from. I'm very lucky in the sense that I've never really drank whiskey to get drunk. It's a bit bizarre, but I don't drink beer. I can't do a pint of beer. I drink. If I go out for dinner, I drink red wine. If I'm drinking out in pubs, I'm drinking whiskey, and
I think you're my spirit animal, Ross.
You have a lot of spirit animals. Every guest we have.
Except for the peated stuff. But we can hang out.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
I had the opportunity at Glengarry to try. I want to say it was a 72.
It was the 1979. The
79.
Yeah.
It was
very lightly peated though.
Very, very lightly peated. Very lightly peated. And I've experienced that with a few. I had like a whiskey sponge Glengarry. I think it was a 38-year-old. Again, was lightly peated. And so these are whiskies that I could sit and work on. I'd love an hour with them, just to see what I thought. And that's why I love Bowmore, for example. I love Bowmore, but it's the only Isle of whiskey that I would really turn to because I can get subtleties and complexities from Bowmore, and everything else is a bit challenging for me. But in a whiskey bar, generally, the first order I ever do, and if it's a whiskey bar specifically, is a recommendation. If it's a pub in general, Balvenie 12. Every pub has Balvenie 12.
Yeah.
It's such an easy drink.
I like the advice, and I think try to think who it was. There was Stuart Buchanan or Mark Watt gave me the bit of advice is if you go to a bar, you're not sure what to drink, find Glenfiddich 12 and go 2 to the left. And, whatever it is, buy it. And that's not right.
I like
that's
that.
Great.
Kenny says something similar, doesn't he? Kenny always, from Drumore, he always says, go into a bar, find something you know, and then go like 3 to the left and 1 up.
Yeah,
and then,
it maybe was Kenny, but it was somebody, and I just thought that's great because every bar will have Glenfiddich 12. Yeah, whiskey bar or not, they'll have that on there.
Yeah.
You might end up drinking gin depending on how much whiskey they've got. But
definitely start with the Glenfiddich though, because it's a good way to start. Like you can't go wrong with Glenfiddich.
Yeah, I think it's what I used to always get asked, what's your favourite whiskey? And we say we don't have a favourite whiskey. And I say, what's your favourite distillery? And so my answer would almost always be Balvenie, and then I would immediately say, I've never bought a bottle of Balvenie 12. I've never bought a bottle of it, but I've tried it in 40 pubs. It's there for me when I need it in the bars, but I've never bought a bottle of it. There's like 60, 70 bottles. Everything I've got, pretty much. Okay, tonight I had the Arran and I had a wee bit of the Glengarry. Pretty much everything's independently bottled. The stuff that I'm buying bottles of. So when I go into a bar, I'll try new releases from official bottling, stuff like Tomatin. I love Tomatin, as you mentioned earlier. Scott Adamson and what he's doing, I think it's so impressive. Like it adapts to so many different casks. The 36 they do is probably my favourite whiskey. Full stop. Which I hate to say.
I think what you've said there it hits a note there that people have whiskey that they drink at home and they'll have whiskey that they drink when they're out. And they're two very, very different animals.
Yeah.
If you're going out when I'm in the pub, I'm probably either playing darts or playing pool with the local pub team. And I won't go looking for fantastic single casks or anything. I'm looking for a couple of nips at the end of the night. So it'll be Bevvy, Glenfiddich, Old Pulteney, these kind of drams.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm at home, I'm lucky enough to have access to such an array of different drams that I can go hunting. So I'd rather do my hunting at home. That unless we're down at a festival or something like that, then obviously there's different rules apply. But I think different favorite. We had a tasting and it was a Berry Brothers tasting, if I remember right, with Andy Stewart. And we asked the group at the end of the night, "What's your favourite dram?" And it was Jim, who is Janice's husband. So Janice works with us in the shop. He said, "Well, it was a 15-year-old Orkney. He goes, that's my favourite dram, but I would drink more of the Speyside Classic because that's my price range." And again, that kind of ties into favourite drams and drams you drink every day.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their own kind of budget, and we would never kind of say, "Oh, if your favourite dram's not expensive, what's the point in having a favourite dram?" kind of thing. It's like, everyone's got that different level of drinking, don't they?
Yeah, I think my dad would say it's ridiculous to spend over £100 on a bottle of whiskey. He would say it's ridiculous, and that's because for the last 30 years, he's bought whiskey from £30 to £70, and been really, really content with it. I've been totally spoiled working at the Balmoral Hotel and trying some of the stuff we've got to try and all the rest of it, and you see that there is different whiskies for different times and different whiskies for different occasions, and that's when you indulge and you treat yourself with something special,
Yeah.
I think Keith's made the same point. He can't afford to drink the whiskey I have at home when I'm in a pub.
Yeah.
But that's the difference, isn't it? Yeah, you got your home
Yeah.
dram, you got your pub dram.
Yeah, it's why I'm big on grain whiskey. I'm really big on grain whiskey. As I say, I drink a lot of American whiskey, so I like a sweeter style, bourbon style whiskey anyway. And grain whiskey for me, having really, really good whiskies from Golden Cask this year, from Signatory, Fragrant Drops, and Infrequent Flyers as well. Really, really good grain whiskies this past year. And you're getting well-aged 25 to 35-year-old grain whiskey for between £90 and £120, and it's really, really delicious liquid. This canvas that I said I was gifted, I've just really opened it. I took it to an event recently and I filled a hip flask with it, and I never actually drank it. I just gave it to people, and so my first taste of it was tonight. I was alive, and I really liked it. But my first
It's nothing worse when other folks steal all your whiskey, isn't it?
Oh, I can't remember. It was a wedding. It was a wedding, and I had a hip flask, and everybody comes up to you and Ross, she's whiskey and all the rest of it, and so I'm pouring it for everybody, and I never actually tasted it. But this is the kind of whiskey that I want to have a sore head because of this whiskey. That's the way I sum up grain whiskey. It's great value.
Oh, that's the line of the night.
Yeah. I want to have a sore head. It's 32 years old. It's
this whiskey
90.
makes me want to have a sore head.
Yeah. Some whiskies. This one I've just poured for myself just now. This Ben Nevis 5-year-old. That would scare off 80% of whiskey drinkers because they see 5 years old, and it's big, it's heavy, it's indulgent. It was bottled for a really good whiskey shop in Lochfine.
Yeah. I got that one. I had that.
And it's tasty, but I'll have one. It's so big and chewy and dense.
Ben Nevis isn't it? It's got such a kind of rigorous, in-your-face spirit, let alone throwing that in probably what is a very, very fresh cask.
Yeah. But that's just fun to me, whereas, grain whiskey, I'm like, I could brush my teeth with it. Yeah.
I love grain whiskey, and the only, I don't think it puts me off grain whiskey, but it has to be a good age. It has to be bourbon.
Yeah.
And probably refill bourbon. It has to. Other than that, I kind of, like I say, I like grain whiskey, but for me to really commit to buying a bottle of it, that's my credential. I have to be over 18, and I'm probably cutting a lot of noses off to spite faces here, but in my experience, that's what I found is it needs to have a really long maturity to really be good at its cask.
Mike, I would say that most whiskies, grain whiskies over 30, are great because they're very subtle, and they're that kind of artificial vanilla pencil shavings, prick stick glue. Those are the kind of things I associate with grain whiskies that I love. but they're still affordable for the age.
See, when you're at primary school, you ate a lot, didn't you? It was like
Ayrshire was, listen, there wasn't much to do in Lawthorne, you know. It was crayons were too bitter for me. So, but some of the grain whiskey that is produced now is just fantastic, and by independent bottlers, they're produced at such a great price. Fragrant Drops is the one I think of, new independent bottler in Edinburgh, and a 30-year-old North British that I think was $100 bottle at cash strength. The cash strength would come down to 42 or 43. Just great liquid from great people.
They have the prettiest bottles and branding ever.
Yeah.
I absolutely love them.
Yeah. George behind them. George is Keeple's Casks, as kind of like a whiskey broker. And he was ex Soho Whiskey Club, I think, in London, but just such authenticity. And
Rachel's great. Well, she's so enthusiastic about it. Anytime I speak to her, it's just like
Ardmore in Mezcal was the favourite whiskey that I've tried in ages.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, and they done a diamond rum and so on and so forth as well. Like, just great people, great bottlers, good, very very fair value as well. And that's what whiskey's so exciting just now. It's such a competitive field, and everybody's trying to compete for the same shelf space and all the rest of it. And I can only imagine what it is, working as a retailer. But what a great problem to have.
It is good, and it's also frustrating as well because we buy something like Fragrant Drops, and then you're trying to sell it. You're like, this is great stuff, but I don't. What we have, our biggest issue, and I'm hoping that a lot of the guys in here are whiskey drinkers. Big part of our client base aren't the drinkers themselves. They're buying for a present for drinkers. So if somebody comes in saying, "Oh, Grandad drinks a Highland Park," and we'll be like, "You need to try him with this 50-year-old Bevvy Brothers undisclosed Orkney distillery."
Yeah.
Oh no, but he likes Highland Park. This is Highland Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and it's that level of knowledge where it's a challenge for us to try and talk it up, and we really need to. It's that kind of battle between. It's not naivety. It's just these guys they have no desire to know. They just know Highland Park.
It's years and years of marketing and branding that you have to uneducate, re-educate people from.
And you're trying to get over that. This is from that distillery, but this is so unique and so different that Grandad will never have had this bottle of whiskey before.
You know what Grandad needs? He needs the Bevvy app.
He needs a Bevvy app so you can tell. Yeah.
Cat, you're hired. Very good. But it's hard to sell a single cask French oak finished Tianinish to somebody who's buying a gift to somebody. Yeah. It is, because it's great liquid. It's a great story from our point of view, but we are sad whiskey people, and that's why we love it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I mean, Ross, if every 24-year-old was like you, I think the whiskey industry is in fantastic hands. I think it's just absolutely superb.
If everybody was mentally 80, I appreciate it. Callum's brilliant.
Are you aged with Callum, or is he older than you? Please tell me.
We must be about the same age. He's maybe a couple of years older, but Callum was head tour guide at Glendronach, I believe, and
that's how me and Callum met, actually.
Yeah, so I met him. He brought his family down to the Balmoral, and so I had a tasting upstairs or something. But when he came in, took care of him because he took great care of me and my father. Well, he took care of me the first time I was at Glendronach, actually. And now being at the Quaich Bar and the Craig Ellis Hotel, what an establishment! And he is the right guy to bring that bar back to where it maybe was before.
The company switched off their internet. That tends to happen round about this time.
Yeah.
Either Cat's kids have turned on the PlayStation, or there's been a curfew on the internet because they need to save everything up for the company.
The Glendronach bill you've got, which is it?
So this was the 12-year-old cask 5952 PX puncheon.
Quite recent.
March this year.
I think we tried that. Yeah, we went. It's great whiskey. I think they done it. There was like an Oloroso 28. I think I preferred the PX.
No, I was super chuffed. So we
Sorry.
run a whiskey academy twice a year, which is a week-long kind of fully immersive course. We get behind the scenes kind of access, and we do a little bit of lectures, a lot of kind of visitors. But on March this year, my son was born on the Thursday, so I was kind of sorry, guys. I know whiskey's important, but I'm gonna have to put it in the second place this time. So he was born. I sent the guys a message saying all good, and they sent me back saying we've bought this whiskey for you because we're at Glendronach. So Rick, who is watching tonight, and I'm not sure if Dave's still on. These kind of guys were on it, and so last week I opened it for my 40th, and just a fantastic drum. Steve, if you want, Steve Gibson, who's watching on YouTube, was saying he's never tried a handful yet. So next time you order something from the shop, Steve, I'll send a wee sample down for you.
Nice.
Now, Kat's back.
Welcome back, Kat.
That's a Kevin Bloody Williamson song, isn't it?
Welcome back, Kat.
No, that fucking Cat's back. It's called.
I think my internet's broken again, mate. It's that time of night when like Huntley just turns off its internet.
I was explaining there. It's either the kids turned on the PlayStation or Huntley's turned off the internet.
Or I'm going to have to wash my hair. David, I don't need to wash my hair because I did it this morning, which is why it took me so long to take my hair down. I didn't do the 22 minutes. I think I was the 40 minute before my hair came down.
You doubled. I mean, I thought it was just because of Ross's great banter that you forgot to do it.
It was still wet, and I took it down and thought that looks like shit, so I put it back up again.
Kat's hair is another. So we have got a lot of conversation. How the guys who watch are regular customers, regular viewers. There's Kat's hair, Kat's whiskey collection, Kat's lighting.
I've got, surely my lighting's worse today. I've got the halo around my head, and
nobody's mentioned Kat's lighting today because you keep having to put your torch on.
I'm getting a night off because of your lighting is it's very angelic. It's beautiful, and your whiskey collection's banging. Like I don't have the Narnia of whiskey. Mine's just like what's the arse end of Narnia?
That is how that's being renamed from now on. The Narnia of whiskey.
We were expecting you to come out covered in snow. I was quite disappointed.
Riding a lion. That would be, oh my God. That would be epic if you came out riding a lion.
Nice.
We'll arrange that for next time. You have to know about Narnia for that to make sense. If you've never read Narnia, me saying you should be riding a lion makes no sense.
Have you ever watched The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Ross?
I have when I was, I think a long time ago. I remember watching the silly movie versions of it, or whatever. I can't remember what it was called. The spoof movie versions of Narnia.
Oh, I haven't seen
the spoof one.
I guess his tongue stuck to anyway. It's inappropriate, but it's quite good.
Okay, so me saying riding a lion it maybe has more connotation.
Oh, I do. I've no idea there was spoof movies of The Lion, the Witch, and
it's just called Silly Movie. I thought it's like and there's a thing where they go to Narnia and the goat person's like a DJ, and the guy the first thing the guy does in Narnia is he licks the lamppost and his tongue gets stuck. Yeah.
Oh my God!
Anyway, it's a full thing.
Well, Keith Duncan was missing the telephone pole chat, so hopefully that little insight to a lamppost is appeased that for a little bit.
So I don't know if he's normally asked this, but I ask everybody that I know about whiskey. You must have a desert island dram.
Oh no! Well, we ask the questions in this chat.
A desert island dram.
Like,
I don't know. I don't know if I had enough whiskey to have a desert island dram. Like, I know the brands I work for really well, but I'm still kind of on my quote whiskey journey. And so, like, I don't know if I've got one. Anything Bowmore, to be honest. Anything old and Bowmore. 80s Bowmore. That could be my desert island dram.
Bowmore and bourbon.
Oh God, yes. Bowmore and bourbon, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I would move to desert island if that was an option. Like, yeah, that island's full of Bowmore and bourbon casks. I'm like, yeah.
What does the island have? It had 80s Bowmore and bourbon on tap. Sure.
Yeah. I'd be like, get me my pedalo, I'm away. That'd be my one. What would be yours, Mike?
I don't know. There's one, and a lot of people always ask me what my favorite dram or whatever. I always kind of push that to the side and say my favorite distillery for a core range and constant goodness is Glendronach. I think I am a bit of a sherry head, and I do love that
Sherry tart.
Sherry tart, yeah. But fairly early into my journey as a shop, we worked with Morrison. It was Morrison Mackay now Morrison Distillers. The Carmore range. I had a 1988 Colila as part of their celebration of the cask, and it was honestly like drinking fruit pastels. It is one whiskey that always stands out for me. So I know it's a single cask, but if I could make that single cask an affinity cask, that would be awesome. It was so good. So Colila 1988 single cask from Morrison Mackay.
That's cool.
What about you, Ross?
Balvenie 12.
Love it. Realistic as well. Realistic because probably.
I love Tomatin. I've totally fallen for Tomatin the last 2 years. So Tomatin 36 is pretty special. It's just so tropical, so exotic. Papaya, passion fruit. And my favourite distillery, people really ask me, Bunnahabhain's probably the answer. I say Balvenie because everybody's heard of Balvenie, but with tourists and stuff, just Bunnahabhain, everything they've done I've liked. And the Bunnahabhain 40, considering it's a 40-year-old, it's not bad value, and it was pretty tasty. And I would like to say Balvenie 30, but Balvenie 30 went from 600 to 1800, and now it's 3700. And it's great. Of course, it's great, but it's upset me enough, and the fact that I couldn't afford it at 600, never mind 1800, never mind 3700. So.
It's one of the inevitabilities though just now is that whiskey's going to go up, and there's a couple of distilleries I know who annoyingly I understand why they're doing it. Very recently, very well priced, very reasonably priced, but to suit the market value, had to increase their prices. And did you? Could you not just buck the trend and say, actually, we're sticking by our guns, we're happy with our profit margin, we're going to stick with this? But they didn't want to be seen as the very cheap 21-year-old when everyone else is.
Yeah.
And I get it. As a business, it annoys me as a consumer. These things happen.
100%. Yeah. It's difficult. The way the industry is moving, I would say that we spoke about earlier about how much people can afford to pay for a bottle and all the rest of it, that what's been affordable for especially people that are new into whiskey and people that are coming to whiskey and that modern interpretation of whiskey drinkers.
Yeah.
18-year-old whiskey is £100 a bottle now. Mm-hmm. And that's tough.
What I've realised, and having a pub as well, we've noticed a big shift in that 18 to 24-year-olds, you fit in this category, are spending more on alcohol than they ever have done previously, but at the same time, they're drinking less.
Yeah.
So, and
that's probably...
you take inflation aside, which is probably a bit of it, but for me, that tells me that guys like yourself would rather drink quality over quantity. Yeah.
I totally
and
agree.
that's across the board. That's things like Brewdog and Innocent Gun and these kind of guys putting out beers, maybe a little bit stronger, but more expensive. So instead of going out and getting canned on a dozen pints of cheap lager, you're rather having 2 pints or 3 pints of good quality lager, sitting, sipping, saving, enjoying it. And the same goes for whiskey, same goes for gin. I think it's there's a lot of things coming into play now. Health awareness, environmental awareness, as well as quality awareness. They really want to know what they're drinking, why they should drink it, who makes it, where it's made, and all this kind of thing comes into play. And especially locally, COVID had a big impact on that, didn't it? People want to support local. Oh, this is my local brewery, so I'm going to buy that. That's my local distillery. I'm going to support that. That can only be a good thing as long as it continues, but hopefully it doesn't spiral to £10 a pint and £100 for that.
It's bad enough in Edinburgh already, I tell you.
Yeah, I can imagine. I greeted £4 for a pint down to the local here, and that's me that's charging me that. just down in York this week, and so my fiance had lived in Munich for a while, and she drinks beer. I'd said I can't drink a lager. And we're in this Viking themed pub in York, and she goes, "Oh, I love this beer, whatever from Munich." And I said, "Right, I'll have one of them." And she's already went and sat down, and the guy says, "Just to warn you, it's £8.20 a pint."
Wow.
And so I've obviously went, "Aye, great. Aye, fantastic." Yeah, make my whiskey a large one, like.
It's scary, but that's where we are just now, I'm afraid.
It's the world.
Mm-hmm. So you're better buying bottles to drink at home and enjoy them,
and take a photograph and upload it to Bevvy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what Keith's away off to do just now.
Yeah.
He's heading off for the night. He's going to be Bevvy's collection.
Maybe in future you can scan a bottle of Glenallachie 15 and you can buy it on the Bevvy app, and little do you know it's coming from the Inverary Whisky Shop.
There you go.
That's the medium to long term. And again, it's one of those things that we never know what's going to happen and all the rest of it.
You should do like a golden ticket where you'll one of you pick a bottle and somebody scans it, and maybe one of your more popular ones, but all of a sudden it's like, pow, you've won a bottle, or you've won a distillery tour, or you've won a t-shirt or something.
That's it. David, cool. you scanned Ardbeg 10 for the 12th time. Here is a tour of Ardbeg with Dr. Bill personally. All the rest.
Very, very not included.
Yeah. I think what's most exciting about it is all the whiskey content. More and more people are making whiskey content. I think that I certainly know as somebody that's interested in it. If you upload a video trying an interest in whiskey, I'm going to sit there with my mouth open, listening the whole time, So I'm really excited. That's what's quite exciting. And we've got such a great platform here in Edinburgh and such a captive audience as well, So
it's definitely exciting. It's interesting to see what you're up to. There's so much content on there.
It's such a simple idea. It's obviously the idea is the key point, but somebody, your team, and for those who are watching later on, unfortunately Ross isn't the creator. I would love it if you were, because the ideas that you've had just in this wee 2-hour chat have been phenomenal. But the time and effort that has gone into this app must have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just that dedication to getting this off the ground.
Yeah.
People must have had this idea before and thought, how many whiskies are out there?
Yeah.
Fuck that. But your team have decided
Yeah.
we're going to commit to that. That in itself deserves a huge applause.
I think that the most evident thing to me is the fact that having just started working for Laurie and his whiskey team and seeing how the tech works now, and so working on bottles that are missing or bottles that haven't scanned correctly or not identified straight away, but then 96 or 98% of the whiskies are being picked up correctly straight away. From my point of view, having learned the tech and now having to learn how to admin on the daily, the amount of groundwork and the amount of problems they must have had in the last 2 years, it's incredibly admirable to think about what they've done now. And now we've got this platform, we've got an app where we can expand the team, and everybody wants to work with us. And it does seem too good to be true, and that's that's because of the work that they've put in, and that's
it's a great
why
place to be.
It's a fantastic place to be, and the industry, the whiskey industry, is a fantastic place to be just now. Anyway, you know, we're selling more whiskey than ever. People are visiting more distilleries than ever. People are, the visitor centres are getting more visitors, and distillery websites are getting more visitors, and all the rest of it. The thing I'm most gutted about, and I'll need to visit Glengarry again, because they had these rugby shirts, these really smart rugby shirts. And
we're still waiting for the other sizes to come into stock, but I will totally message you when they're in stock.
Heartbreaking. I nearly honestly, I was nearly tearing the gaff up, to be honest.
Were they too big or too small, or you know what it is?
Unfortunately, they didn't quite reach my size. Actually, there was no 2XL there. But what can you do?
You'll be the first to know, and you know what? I will send it down to you myself. Like, I'll be at that post office, and I'll send it down to
you. You need to sort your grammar there, Kat. You
Listen,
send down yourself.
Send it down myself. What do you mean?
Yourself.
I love.
No, I'll send it down myself. I'll send it down myself.
You just have this parcel and Kat pops up. Hello. Here's your top.
Like Flat Stanley, push myself down. I'll do them.
Yeah, it's the two biggest regrets. No rugby top at Glengarry. I'll never forget. Every time it rains in Edinburgh, I look outside, and I should have bought this Brawley from Glenfarclas. It was 60 quid. It was ridiculous. It was gorgeous golf Brawley.
Do you know what? So we've got Brawleys as well. Like, do you know what? Like, I'll just post you one day.
Kat, listen, Kat, don't get carried away. Your rugby shirts were good. So, have you any distilleries you've not visited that you want to visit, or any of that anytime soon?
God, there's loads of distilleries I haven't been to that I'd love to visit.
Quite interesting with the new Harris whiskey being released. I've never been out that way, really.
I think I'm really keen to go up and see Speyburn, because that was the distillery a lot of people came out of Speyside talking about.
Yeah, I'd love to see Speyburn. We had Stuart on a couple of months ago, didn't we? Talking about Speyburn.
Yeah.
But great to go and see that. It looks amazing.
It's funny because it's not a whiskey that's ever really captured a lot of my interest. I think perhaps really aimed towards a kind of Eastern market, an Asian market, or
it's Inverhouse, who I think have a Taiwanese owner.
Yeah.
So and Hanky Bannister, it's very much that kind of. It's forward lanes. The single malts we get are kind of supermarket brands. I guess the way of putting it, so people kind of. I mean, it does all right in the shop. We always take it in because people kind of really like to have a selection of that kind of sub £30 whiskey, and it does well. But every so often, come out with a single cask, and it's really
tasty.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a big hype about it just now because they opened for the first time at Speyside, and now they're open for tour. And they have that kind of drum maltons as well, which is quite unique. So a lot of people are kind of keen on it. So I'd like to get up there. And
to be fair, I don't think I've ever had any single cask or cask strength Speyburn, so I probably can't comment on the range of whiskey that they've produced, because as you say, it's kind of the 10 or the 15 that you get to try here.
Yeah.
And Ember House, Ember Bevvy, really impressive as a company. So.
been distracted by Rick's comment of the excessive headspace above my head.
Yeah. I've just answered it. Don't worry. That's there for when the hair comes out. Because
I don't think my ceiling is Edinburgh ceiling.
That's it. I've got it angled up so you can see my Scotland flag and my Narnia bed and my Narnia closet.
Your Narnia closet. Maybe yeah.
But Kat, when you let your hair out and it goes like this,
that's what it is. I just need to fill the screen with more hair and less ceiling. There we go. That'll cover up some of the space.
I will say, I'm onto my 5th dram now. I've decided to go for the Daphne that I had sitting there.
Oh, nice.
So it's just a wee what is it? Winter batch 2010, and I think I entered. I don't have the luxury, unfortunately, of having my own retail store, but I entered, I reckon, about 10 or 15 ballots for a Daphne before I ever got one. And I still didn't win the ballot, but I was so sick of losing ballots that I basically messaged the shop that I was in the ballot for and said, any chance there's one not claimed, please give it to me. And I got it, and I'm totally underwhelmed because I like the idea of Daphne. I've spoken about Daphne and tried lots of different Daphne, and I finally got a bottle and I said, yeah, tastes like Daphne. And but I quite like that, really, Daphne and bourbon. Although I've never ever had a Daphne and sherry.
I've never had a Daphne at all, so you're one above me anyway.
That's good stuff. It's a great story.
Yeah.
Like they're like a farm distillery, right? Like they only produce it when they're not Hairston and silage and stuff.
Francis and Ian Cuthbert, farmers first, distillery owners second.
Yeah.
That's like my heart. Farmers first, whiskey second.
Yeah, very kind of artisanal, handcrafted, old school lowland. They're quite happy fitting into a traditional lowland style spirit. Like a lot of their old stuff that was done with the maltings in Fife was quite farmyardy and interested in that style. And now their newer stuff's loads of kind of citrus and creamy notes. And as I say, for somebody who worked at Glenkinchie, it feels like this at 46% natural colour, non-chill filtered is perhaps what a lot of other distilleries maybe could achieve as well.
I think there's definitely a move towards that, though, isn't there? People looking more for less commercial, more kind of traditional. But do you know what? We make a consumer-based product. It's like all whiskies have followed what consumers want at the time. So mass producers because that's what the consumer wanted. Now we're moving towards more consumers market because that's what the consumer wants. So we're consumer driven.
It's the reason that when people talk down blended whiskey, I'll always argue for blended whiskey because the reason that the single malt distilleries are even open. The people say, I don't rate that blended stuff. I say, well, I hate to break it to you, but your favourite malt whiskey, if you like a Macallan, that's the ground that's been produced for the last 40 years, do you know?
Yeah. That's not only that, and the other argument I always put to guys who kind of say single malt has to be, just remind them, single malts are blends as well. They're just a blend of whiskey from that distillery.
I mean, I remember speaking to people again, high level tastings in the Balmoral Hotel, and they'd said that I've been drinking single malt whiskey for however long, and then you get to, we're talking about like Solera Vat or all the rest of it, and the batting of casks. He said, so what do you mean? I mean, it's a blend. I said, well, it's a blend of thousands of casks per year, just that way. And blew people's minds who had this kind of very narrow idea that every single malt was a single cask, and that kind of the diversity in whiskey and the consistency. You need consistency, and you can't do consistency without blending.
Without volume, yeah, absolutely. And it's I think nowadays, and again, this is where your app could I love this app, and I just think there's so much potential here not just for people kind of jumping in and scanning bottles, but for education as well. If people come in, you could have something like a way they'll learn about whiskey and stuff like that, and people can just flick through it because they're going to be on the app anyway.
Yeah.
But what is a single malt? What is a single grain and all that? But people are so open to, if it's on a phone, they're so open to listening to it or reading it now. Whereas going to a tasting and listening to somebody telling them, this is a single malt, this is what it means and all that. They're like, you know what, mate, I'm just here to have a few drams. I thought it was going to be fun. I didn't come for a lecture. Whereas you put that in a phone and tell them that, somebody sitting on the phone on the train, on the lunch break, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, I didn't know that. They're so open to education.
And as you said earlier, it doesn't need to be a scanned bottle. It can be from your photo library. So I can sit in the bus and Mike's texted me and said, what do you think of the Inchdarney distillery? And I could go get a photo of Google, screenshot it, put it on the Bevvy app, and find out information about the distillery to text you back and say, well, I don't know much about it, but I've just heard that blah, 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 blah. And so the opportunity to learn, form, and if you're interested in whiskey, and it's such an interesting industry and subject, it's a great platform. If you put the time in yourself, just reading off the app, and again, it's a testament to the work that Laurie's team's put in before I joined to make every distillery profile. It's if you put the time in, you can learn, just like buying the Scotch Whisky Yearbook every year and finding out when it was found and all the rest of it. You've got a digital version of that information, And,
that's something else. We, recommended reading list could be something and where to buy. Yeah. I want to get on your marketing team. I want you to employ me and I will do all this shit for you.
It's certainly an opportunity. It's one of these things that the next 12 months we have so many people that are, of course, interested in saying that what you said earlier, it's too good to be true. How do we get involved? And we just need to be cautious and pick the right people to work with. But one thing that's certain for me is that being unbiased, being non-brand related, it's a great platform for any whiskey drinker or any whiskey enthusiast where you're going to get an honest.
I really think. I really hope it takes off it, and I really do. I can't see why it won't. If you get the guy behind you and you're now attending festivals, I think was it Keith that said earlier on, you being at the National Whisky Festival will really help kick that on. But if you're now sponsoring it was Phil Dixon.
Well, that's it. Yes. So we've got our table at a Whisky Festival. We've also sponsored the entire festival. So,
that kind of thing will really put you in the limelight.
Yeah.
People realise how easy it is. Yeah. Why? I really wish you all the best as a team, and
get it.
If you want any kind of creative advice, don't ask us. Go to the professionals. Go to the team.
We had a conversation. I had a conversation this week that was about this weekend is London Whisky Festival.
That's this weekend.
Yeah, and so why does Scotland not have a festival as big as London Whisky Festival?
It's a good point, actually. Why do we not?
That's where it's made. So if we had the right space, the right facility, if we had the right outreach, we've already got the right brands, and as in every brand in Scotland, and we just say, listen, see that London Whisky Festival that you put 10% of your budget towards every year? What's London got to do with it? Let's have an Edinburgh Whisky Festival. Let's have a Scotland rather than Edinburgh Whisky Festival. Why not have a Scotland Whisky Festival?
Yeah. You can move it around every year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's
I think
there's
it's
a certain very, very famous brand ambassador who I won't name, absolutely hates the idea of a Scotch brand being launched in Tokyo, in New York, and San Francisco.
Yeah.
He says, why are we putting all these people over there?
Yeah.
Every single Scotch whiskey launch should be in Scotland because that's where it's hard, that's where it's made. And I completely agree.
Well, 100%. Yeah, I have to agree. It's fantastic that all these markets are as interested in Scotch whisky as they are. And the reality is that Scotland is a tiny market for Scotch whisky, but it's still the space in which it should be celebrated. And so, if we can give the platform to Scotland, to Edinburgh, to the North East, I mean, imagine having a rotationary, festival the size of London Whisky Festival that the third year was in Sutherland, and you had people from all over the world. Those microclimates, the communities would benefit tenfold. And again,
I gave birth in Sutherland. I could name some great places to do a whiskey festival in Sutherland.
I'll be honest, in Sutherland, I only really think of Dornoch and Brora, but that just goes to show that I'm obviously like whiskey.
No, there's so many more better places. Like we can do it where I gave birth.
I'm assuming.
Kat, can you please do a tour? Yeah,
where I gave birth.
I broke waters, and this is where the taxi took me.
I can do that. My waters broke in an estate on Loch Erebor, and I gave birth beside the road halfway to Inverness. So I could totally do that.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, no.
Let's do a whiskey guided tour of all the places Kat's given birth.
All the places? Is it alone?
Oh, I'm like the old woman who lived in a shoe. I like fire them out like a rabbit, honestly. You know when you realised you should have stopped talking, but you just carried on.
Fire them out like a rabbit might beat for the best line of the It's close with whiskey you want to have a sore head because of,
Yeah.
That is the best line. That and
you and Brooke Laddie in the 90s were kindred spirits, weren't you? Just firing them out like rabbits.
I'm very efficient. Like if I was a yow, there's no way I'd be going down the road to the market. Like,
If I was a yow.
You've only got 3 kids.
I've been explaining Scottish terms to my fiance, but yow was something she's caught on very well, and she's good. She'll say, "Hell of a schneb on you," or getting a little bit lugs and all the rest of it. So we're getting there. But yows is something that's a bit. I feel like yows is only really said in the northeast as well. I would say it's funny because I would say yow, but I don't know why.
Yeah. I think the Fife is yow as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think everywhere in Scotland is, because then, and it's different for like male cattle, because like it's either stirk or stot or like a heifer's a northeast thing as well. I don't think everywhere would use heifer maybe either.
Heifer?
Is it heifer? I said heifer. Heifer?
Heifer. I've heard of heifer.
Yeah. No, it's heifer.
Heifer.
You all right? You posh tunes there, mate.
Yeah, yeah, I'm about 60 miles closer to the city than you are. Sorry.
Yes,
I scored a wee Adelphi. Go by inspiration from both Ross for his last Adelphi and Steve Gibson, who's saying he's loving the Dalhuin at the moment. So this was a 13-year-old Adelphi bought for Woodwinters.
I don't have anything Adelphi.
Russell for my birthday last year, 2 years ago.
When he says Dalhuin, is he drinking the Flora and Fauna 16? How he's saying?
Stephen was talking about really good independent bottling Dalhuin.
Oh yeah, it's such a great spirit. I mean, I love the Flora and Fauna. I love the Flora and Fauna, and if I ever see a Dalhuin bourbon, I'll always try it.
I just love it in sherry. I know it's a good spirit.
I think it's suited for sherry. It's totally, but I know I'll like it in sherry, which is why when you see it independently bottled, I think there's a few people that done it in bourbon. I'm always like, why have you done that? But then I'm like, I have to try it.
I think Fragrant Drops did a Dalhuin in bourbon, and it was pretty. Or was it refill sherry? It certainly wasn't as sherry as.
Yeah, I remember a company called Fable doing a Dalhuin in bourbon. It's 9 years old refill bourbon, and it was delicious. It was like white chocolate. It was really bizarre. But yeah, I mean,
I love bar whiskey.
I think Stephen's asking if any of us tried the Bruichladdich The Rare Finds Bruichladdich 16. I haven't tried it.
So they done a 6.
Okay, you both have, I haven't.
We brought it in, and I'll be 100% honest. We've got in the shop just now. When I first got that release of Rare Find, Greg, who I know quite well, sent me Greg Uckert, sent me the samples, and that was the only one that I didn't connect with. I thought, I'm not keen at this. Something about it. I like Bruichladdich. There's something about this that I'm not sure of. So I didn't order it, and I explained to Greg why. And he came back saying that's really funny because one of these other customers who doesn't like Bruichladdich, that was his favourite dram. So I was like, are you sure this is Bruichladdich?
So we were the other customer.
Really?
Yeah, the Balmoral were the other customer. So we had a thing about Bruichladdich. I had a thing about Bruichladdich. My old boss, Cameron, and I, that Bruichladdich had a nose of baby sick, very specific.
Yeah. That's what he said. Yeah.
And so we got a 16 and an 18 of the Rare Finds in, and so for me, Greg Uckert is right now. He's got not only one of the best presentations of single cask whiskey, but he's also got one of the best portfolios of casks.
I think what they've got in their warehouse is phenomenal. Yeah,
I think that if Bevvy were to go and do our own little spin-off thing, I think that Greg will be an integral part of that. Again, just speaking of ifs, buts, and maybes.
Yeah.
And they're an 18 and a 16, and I wasn't overly impressed by the 16, but I'm not ever overly impressed with Bruichladdich. The 18 they'd done, I'm not sure if it was done before, and it was a little heavier. I thought it was really, really good. So actually, I think that right now, anything that Rare Find produce, I am buying.
Yeah.
Even from distilleries that I have doubted beforehand. So I hope that answers the question. Anything that they've done, even if it's a classic, they've done a Manickmore 14 in bourbon, of course it was going to be good. They've done a Tomatin 36 and an Aberfeldy 17, but they've done a Bowmore 25, and it was a sherry Bowmore 25, and it was kind of a medium to heavy peat. And again, I told you I'm a little bit naive and a little bit cautious when it comes to peated whiskey. It was a medium. It was it's the most peaty tasting Bowmore I'd ever had, and I thought it was really, really impressive.
Yeah.
And again, more of a testament to that company and that brand.
Is that the one you had in the shop?
Yeah. We had that in. We've got the Bruichladdich in just now. We've got the Manickmore, the Lowland 10-year-old, the mystery Lowland, which happened to have produced a lot of granite as well.
Yeah, I've teased Craig quite a lot about that.
That was phenomenal. That was really, really good.
So he had a masterclass for us a month after the outturn. So he's about to release this Invergordon 50-year-old.
Yeah.
So we tried that as a cask sampling for that evening. So he brought in the bottle for the one evening only, one of one bottles, and tried that Invergordon. I think that's a nice wee story to tell because it's such a testament to what Greg is like as somebody that's influential in the whiskey market now, but he's such a fantastic person. So we had this Invergordon 50-year-old, which of course I loved. It was grain whiskey, it was old, it was prick sticks and pencil shavings, as mentioned before. And then he brought out a cask. I want to say it was Manickmore again, a cask sampling Manickmore that he said was like a 5 or 6 out of 10, so they weren't going to bottle it. And so this evening there was maybe 10 or 15 of us, and he said that room was going to decide what cask the Manickmore moved into. Really, really fun. So he said the first cask option was the ex Invergordon 50-year-old cask, and then there was a Spanish red wine, 2 French oaks, a refill bourbon or a refill sherry. And we ended up voting for one of the French oaks, I think. But doing a tasting with an independent bottler who said, this is a cask that's not good enough, and we'll leave it up to you guys in the room to decide what cask it goes into, and then told us at the Balmoral to request samples whenever we wanted, and that we would decide when it was bottled.
That's amazing.
Oh, it was just done, it's one of those things. Done master classes with Brian Kinsman from Glenfiddich, and done amazing tastings at SMWS, and
Yeah.
I had Mark Thompson hosting from Glenfiddich recently, and but that was the most authentic and honest. Though he's very strict with his non-disclosure agreements, but actually that's the right thing to do. I can't openly criticize that, because him not telling us that the Lowland 10 is Ailsa Bay is his job. but me and you, Mike, saying that's Ailsa Bay.
We've been chasing Greg for a long time to come on and chat, but he's a very, very particular man to pin down. I first met him at one of the Glenfiddich festivals.
Yeah.
So Glenfiddich used to do festivals for the trade and invite retailers, bartenders, whatnot, up to the Bayside and put on a great festival. Guys who watched the Mark Thompson chat a couple of weeks ago will know more about it. And I knew Greg tentatively through Rarefind, through Glenmore more. And I said, well, he's coming up. I was like, oh, brilliant. Let's meet up. We'll have a few drams and a great weekend and all that. And we had such wonderful ideas. And just such a genuine guy. And I think he was launching, was it the Musketeers whiskey range, I think, something like that.
There's lots of Glenmore is the company. There's lots of internal brands, collaborations that come from that.
I'm not sure if he was planning on going on his own. When we get him on his own, then he'll probably clear us up.
But they're also
he was looking, but COVID hit and all that, and then he kind of went back under the umbrella. And Derek has given him a lot of freedom to do what he wants with the whiskey, and it's
they're another sponsor of Hibs, so they're a spirit.
Through the gin, isn't it? It's through the gin company that
Whiskey Row does a lot of their stuff. So they're like a blended malt Whiskey Row, and they do a couple of different stuff from them. So they're like the spirit partner with Hibs, and so we're obviously the club sponsor. We're in the shirts and stuff, but if you go to them, you get to try their whiskey and stuff. So I think if you'll ever have me back on, I'm pretty confident I can get Greg on with me.
I think we're absolutely sure we're going to ask you back. You're what, 2-3 weeks into the job, and what a presentation you've done. I know some guys are going to head up. Kant's battery died. She sent me a message saying her battery died. And that's the oldest excuse in the book, Kant, when you watch with this back. But Steve, Brooklandy, just because it wasn't for me doesn't mean it won't be for you. It's all I can say. It is quality spirit. It just wasn't to my taste. Ross, absolute phenomenal chat. Thank you so much. I love your honesty. I love everything about the app. Guys who are watching, guys who maybe watch a bit later on, not live tonight, download it. It's free. There's nothing you cannot gain from this app, and it's. I'm trying to pick faults. I'm trying to think. The only fault I can think of is the name, and that's it.
Okay.
And apart from that, absolutely phenomenal. So thank you so much for joining us, and.
Thanks for having a couple of drams with me. I appreciate it.
Sorry?
Thanks for having a couple of drams with me. I appreciate
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Slange guys at home,
Cheers.
Thank you for interacting. Thank you for watching. Join us next week. Kat holds the diary. She's not here just now. I'm pretty sure we've got a Blether on next week, but we will keep you updated. Check out our Facebook and YouTube channels for that. And, Ross, once again, thank you very much. We will we'll catch you again very soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
Cheers, guys. Good night.
Cheers.